Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pal Check. Wait, that's not right. It's Damage Check, your weekly damage wreckage with your boys. I'm Fjord, and I'm joined, as always, with the beautiful, the masterful, the wonderful HP. How you doing, buddy?
I am a grizzly mess. I haven't shaved, I feel like, in weeks. I'm going through that winter hibernation, and we just got if you guys haven't heard or know anything about the Teofant in the room, but there's a game called Palworld just came out, and that's gonna make me just cave up in the room and play for a while. So
Honestly,
before we get too crazy into that, what have you been playing?
Well, before Palworld, I was playing Sea of Stars, and I am actually on the final bit of Sea of Stars.
Ooh.
I basically reached the point where a little dialogue window comes up and says, "All right, point of no return. You know, you do this, you're in the end, basically." And so I took that opportunity to go around the map and start cleaning up some stuff.
That's interesting. It told you that.
Yes, there is a moment where it is very much like, hey, moment of no return. If you want to do anything else in this playthrough, you know, get going and go do it.
I respect
and then
that.
come back and do this. And so I got to that point, started wandering around, started doing all the side stuff.
Okay.
Because I did learn that there are kind of levels of endings. How varying they are, I'm not sure yet, but yeah, there are levels of endings. And so I was like, all right, let me get all the stuff. I want to get the best ending I can in this game. You know, I've enjoyed it so much. Continues to be fantastic. Just gets better and better every time I play it. And I actually planned on beating it yesterday. And then Palworld came out, and I clocked 16 hours into Palworld in the past 24 hours. If that gives you any inclination into how much I have been playing Palworld.
Yeah, I think. Well, let me just say what I've been playing before we go to, because
So
we're gonna go into, because this is the Palworld podcast at this point. So last week I was going to jump into Asgard's Wrath, and I know that's been 3 weeks coming that I've been telling you I was going to do it. I never ended up doing that. I did jump on the VR a little bit with the boys in the past few weeks. We did play a little bit of mini golf inside of VR chat. That was cool. Sea of Stars as well. I'm not nearly as far as you are, but I'm probably on the third or fourth boss or so. Obviously, continue to watch the stream. We'll be knocking that out this year. And then Prince of Persia, got it Thursday. It came out Thursday. Really enjoy it. It is so good. It is so good. They really mix. I'm not a Metroidvania fan, but there's a lot of quality of life stuff that it makes me actually enjoy a good Metroidvania, because like I feel like in most, like your Oris and your Hollow Knights, I'm almost too dumb for them, if you want to say that. I get lost so easily. I mean, we even joked when we were playing Palworld, when I went into a dungeon by myself, my friends were like, who let HP go into a dungeon by himself? Because I just get lost, man. I just don't know these things. I'm just not, I have my spatial and geographical awareness are just not that great. So even as side scroller as like Metroidvanias, I get lost. Prince of Persia does not allow for that to happen, really, because what they do a little bit differently than other games is not only can you pull up the map anywhere, which some games have been doing that lately, but sometimes you have to go to a certain station. You don't have to do that. You can pull up the map anywhere you are, and you can mark your location. And what's really cool about marking your location on the map is you can mark your location with a screenshot. So it shows you what it looks like where you are. And so if you're like, oh, is this the area? Oh, I marked it with a little whatever. You're not like marking it with like a little symbol. You are marking it with a picture. So if you hover over that, you can see what that area was. So you know exactly where you are. That is genius.
That is an absolute stroke of genius. Wow. Yeah, that's huge for the Metroidvania.
And it sounds small, but
yeah, but that's like such a genius way to fix the problem of like, because so many of these Metroidvanias, they do the whole thing where it's like, oh, the purple wall on the map means it's this thing, and the red wall on the map means
like
this thing.
Like a legend or something, yeah.
Yeah, like a legend. Whereas just have it be like, nope, here's what the area looks like. Oh, yep, that's the hook shot thing I need, or that's
exactly.
the bomb thing I need.
Exactly. And I felt that was such a genius idea. It's one of those things where something so small goes so far. And I love that. So then they also, you know, they progressively kind of like, first off, there's combos. It's such a good game. Like, I didn't think that I was going to enjoy the fighting, but the fighting is very simple, but also in depth, if that makes sense. I hate saying that type of stuff, but that's what it is. It's very simplified. There's no crazy combos, but it's kind of like, it's situational combos. So it's mostly just tapping X, but if you hold up an X, he throws them up. If you hit down an X, it slams them down. And then there's some kind of combination you can do within that and holding the button that it does kind of do like a flippity-do kind of thing. So so far, so good, man. I am enjoying it. I was a little upset in the beginning, not upset, but it was a lot of talking, a lot of world building setup and stuff like that for the story. Little boring for the first hour, but then it picks up in the action, and then I was like, well, where's the platforming? It gets right into the platforming, and man, It kicks in, and it's good. I haven't got to any part where we're rewinding of the time part of Prince of Persia, but so far, man, so good. I don't want to go too in depth with it because I haven't played too much of it yet, but I am fully in, except for the game we both played yesterday, Palworld. And we can just go right on into it because that's where we both stand at this point. I also clocked about 16 to 20 probably hours. So
yeah, Prince of Persia sounds great. I'm definitely looking forward to getting to it. But yeah, Palworld has now basically taken at bare minimum the rest of my January, if not further. I think this might be I've always bounced, to give a little bit of history on my survival game and even my Pokemon gameness. Both genres have never really done a ton for me. Pokemon, I've always been whatever on, like, the designs are cool, but the games themselves never do like a ton for me. I usually fall off pretty early on into them because eventually it just turns into, what is the strongest Pokemon that I can just basically hit the same attack over and over again, and then boom, I'm just gonna bulldoze through all the different Pokemons and stuff. And so that's one of the major issues I've had with Pokemon. Survival games, the big issue that I've had is once I build my house and I get my house how I want it, I'm kind of like, I beat the game. Like, I don't really need anything else. I know newer survival games have introduced stuff like, like different bosses, kind of like dungeons and things along those lines. And so that could make me more interested. But it's always just been one of those things where, like, combat in survival games is rarely all that good. It's usually pretty janky. And just in general, I've never felt like survival games really did much other than let me build kind of my own house. And like I said, once I did that, I kind of finished up with it. Palworld fixes both these issues and adds so much to the game that I'm actually floored. And I think this may be like my survival game of choice from here on out. Because I imagine with how much support they're getting right now, it has legs. It's going to get content updates. It's going to get tons and tons of new stuff. It's going to continue to grow and all that kind of stuff. So this may be like the survival game that I plant my flag in. But I'd love to hear it before I get into like some of my more nuanced, like, these are the things it fixed for me. I just kind of want to get your overall thoughts first.
So where I stand with it is, I mean, because we can go into all the nuance as well, and I will tackle every little bit, but I agree with you on the combat. It is true that most survival games are a bit janky in terms of the combat, and like Ark is one of my absolute favorites, pretty much for the reason why I love Palworld. Like, you capture and collect. Because you, instead of, in this you do, but in Ark you tame, but the taming takes forever, and when they die, they permanently die. Palworld kind of fixes that because they go that Pokemon route where they're not dead, they're fainted. You put them in the box and they'll come back after a cooldown. So, I mean, they did everything that you would think, because I don't think Valheim's, for example, was too janky. It was very fitting for its thing. So, like, if you go into a dungeon in Ark, if you have like the max gear where you have like a parachute, which is only a one-time use, which is ridiculous, but like you have like, as far as I remember, at least it was when I played, you have like a one-time use parachute, but you have a grapple gun, which is nice. So the grapple hook works, but like it doesn't work, and there's no climbing on the side of the walls unless you have like actual climbing gear or a climbing mount. But some of these mounts in Ark can't go in there with you, can't go in these dungeons with you. Or at least a bunch of them can't. And so, as far as I knew from when I played, so this was years ago, Palworld fixes all that. You can put any pal in the crevices wherever you want, and the fighting feels good, the capturing feels good, the grind doesn't feel so monotonous because the pals can kind of do it for you. Whereas Ark, the dinosaurs can do it for you, but typically you're doing it on the dinosaurs, so it makes it, you still have to do the grind, it just makes it more efficient. In Palworld, it's not only more efficient, they do it for you, so it starts to become automated. So everything that you didn't like about a survival game, Palworld has pretty much fixed it. That's how I feel, and we can go under all the nuanced stuff because that's where I'm going to start to get to. So if you want to just lead us with some of these nuances.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, I'll take it almost vector by vector, and I'll kind of talk about the pals first, because I think the pals are one, they're probably the most controversial part of the game. If you want to attribute controversy to it, but also I think the pals are, they are just, it's a survival game with monster catching. They actually are like the lifeblood of the game. And I think that's really cool. I think them making them just the loop of the game also has really fixed some of the survival aspects, because now it's not just about filling up the Pokedex or anything like that, or I think they call it the Pal Doc or something like that.
Pal
Deck.
Yeah,
it's not about just filling up the Pal Deck. Oh, I caught all the things. Okay, I won. No, there's like so many different factors with the pals. You can find them with different passive traits, both negative and positive. You can find all this different stuff. And I think they've really just had a stroke of genius with how they've integrated the pals into the world. I think that having, kind of going back to my original issue with a lot of the Pokemon and like monster catching games, like I said, it usually boils down to I just catch the big guy and then I kill everything, and then boom, there you go, I won the game, right? But because of the base automation and because the pals have not only a combat vector, a combat abilities, but they also have base abilities plus passive abilities if you really want to throw in a third one. But the base abilities also makes it so that you're now not just catching them because they're your strongest, you're catching them because, this one is going to be really good for collecting lumber for me, or this one's going to be really good at transporting stuff for me, or this one's going to be really good at, cooking stuff for me, or whatever it might be. I think there's around like 10 or 12 different work suit abilities that they can do. And I think that has made it really interesting because now it's not just like, okay, I'm just going to ignore all the land balls, or I'm going to ignore all the, the Kativas or anything like that, because they're just not going to really be useful to me because they're not strong enough. And now it's like, oh no, I need those guys because they're going to be good at moving this stuff for me, or they're going to be good at like keeping the kind of base running and everything like that. And so it makes every pal in some way, shape, or form, every pal is useful for something in the game. There's no throwaway pal really in the game. And I learned this the hard way. There's one gum moss, which is basically like a stick of gum with like a bunch of he almost looks like he's wearing a little beanie. He's very cute. And originally I looked at his work suit abilities. I'm like, he can just plant stuff. That's it. I've got guys that can plant. I got guys that can, mine. I got guys that can, transport all in one. And then I pulled him out in battle at one point, and he kicked the absolute shit out of what I was battling. I was like, oh, so you're a combat pal. Okay, cool. And so then I learned that's kind of the game taught me, like, everything's going to have its use. Everything's going to be good at something. And that makes me actually excited to go out and catch, even if it's like a land ball. I'm going to, the land ball is like essentially your starter. It's in the starting area. Even when I catch one, I'm like, still could be pretty good, still could be useful to me, still could do something with it. And I think that has fixed a core issue with Pokemon or monster catchers in general, where the early pals, monsters, whatever you want to call them, end up being useless. And I think that has been one key part of like really making me enjoy going out and catching the pals. What are your thoughts on the pals?
I would agree with that. And I think that kind of shines through to why why it's not a problem that they don't evolve. in like in some monster catching, notoriously Pokemon. We could stray. I mean, there's obvious. Everyone can see the obvious parallels to Pokemon. We don't have to point that out. It's pretty much. It's the writing on the. It's right there in front of you. You know, we all get that. And anything that's monster catching is going to obviously take flack from, or not flack, but inspiration from the most giant. I mean, it is not only is it the biggest monster catching, you know, they are the biggest franchise in the world. So obvious inspirations have been taken. But the thing is the thing that I think is so interesting about the PALs, in my opinion, is that, and you've played other monster catching games, and maybe you can agree with this, because this is what I noticed yesterday. Because the PALs are, first off, nicknameable, which is pretty common in monster catching games, or any game that you have little pals with you. Even Ark you can nickname. So you can nickname them, you can have them work for you, you can have them battle for you, and you can catch multiple different types of them to where, like, you know, one land ball is not going to be the same as your second land ball. Like, they're all going to be different because they have different passives and the partner skills and different ability sets, and you can get a different attachment to each of them. What I find interesting is that I actually remember these characters' names. These pals, they stand out. Like, when you say land ball, I immediately think of a land ball. When you say Gummoss, I immediately think of Gummoss, which is awesome because that's what sets this apart than all the other quote-unquote Pokemon clones or monster catching games. Because, like, Temtem, I think Temtem is a better version of the standard Pokemon game in terms of battling and the way that the system works and the overworld and stuff. It is still, at its core, basically Pokemon, but it's a little bit better in my opinion. And but it's not Pokemon in terms of the memorabilia, the remembering of who these Pokemon, like, it doesn't stick with you. Like, I could not tell you, I'm pretty sure, I don't even think I can tell you one Tim. One. I can't remember any of them. And I played it for like 80 hours. I love that game. Or maybe more than 80 hours, probably over 100. And I don't remember a single one. This one, I remember pretty much all the ones I've caught.
Yeah, same. I 100% agree with you on that, because, you know, I'll even bring in another monster catcher of recent times, which was Cassette Beast. And I absolutely loved Cassette Beast. It's one of my favorite games last year. I haven't beat it yet, and I still need to get around to going back and beating it and everything. But same, I could maybe name 3 to 5 of the Cassette Beasts. And that would be about it. And it's not necessarily like I could probably remember a lot of their designs and stuff. I thought their designs were good, but I think that once again, they make the PALs the lifeblood of the game.
Absolutely.
They make it to where they are integrated into every part of what you're doing. Whereas in like Temtem, of course, they're like integrated into like the battling and everything like that. But at the end of the day, it's still a turn-based battle. It's the mechanic does not really beget the Temtem necessarily. Obviously, they're the ones carrying out the actions, but it's not fully integrated into it. It could be another trainer in front of you and you could hit attack and it would be the same exact thing. Whereas PALs, it's like, no, like I know Lamball because he's the dude running back and forth in my base, transporting all my stuff. I remember Kativa because Kativa's over there mining all my stuff.
They're your neighbors.
Exactly, dude. And that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, they're your neighbors. I remember them because they actually provide a function to the game other than just hit the thing hard. And so that's why I think it really builds in this, like, you remembering them and everything like that, because you walk into your base and you see them doing jobs. You see them hanging out. You see them, you know, they'll get all like happy when they complete tasks and stuff like that. And like, it really kind of ingrains them into your mind as like, okay, yeah, these are my guys. You know, this is my team essentially. And it's not just the, you know, 5 or 6 that you take out with you and that you're going to battle with. Those ones are also going to be in your memory, but the ones that actually make up the town, I think almost by you saying they're your neighbors, it almost does beget like an Animal Crossing style feeling to it.
A little bit.
You're gonna remember these guys because this is the guy who's always over here doing.
It's very alive.
Yes, it's very, very alive. Your base feels like so much is going on at once. You know, you're walking around, you're giving orders, you're doing this. You're like, okay, let me go grab this. Let me go put this over here. And everything just is kind of working together. And it's an addictive feeling. It's a really, really addictive feeling of like getting that automation down. especially since like terrain can play a part into it as well. And so I think you're 100% right, where the memorabilia of these guys is significantly higher than other Pokemon clones that we have seen in the past. And I also want to agree with you on the whole evolution thing. I know that, early on, like when the game first came out, some of the talk online was like, oh, there's no evolutions. Like, what's kind of the point? But I kind of see it as this, where you brought up the equipment. To me, the equipment is the evolution. That is taking them to like the next step.
Level. Yeah, that's a good point.
And so like you have like Leaf Monk, right, which is like a squirrel kind of chickmunk looking pal. And you can give them a submachine gun. And then at that point, they will ride around on your shoulder with the submachine gun and shoot at stuff that you're auto shoot stuff that you're fighting. And to me, that's the evolution right there. I evolved it to now be able to, do these different abilities.
That's a good point.
Versus it just getting a different design, because I do think that I don't really need these guys to get a new design, because I kind of think they all look really cool just base level.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's come up a lot in the Pokemon community where it's like middle evolutions almost always suck, right? You're just trying to get to the big evolution.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like this game kind of fixed.
Yeah.
It just skips the crappy designs. It's like, cool, you have your like normal pals that are going to kind of be everywhere. Those are kind of your tier 1 evolutions. And then, you're going to have other ones that aren't an evolution of the smaller one, but they have the same vibe and feel. For example, there's one called Pengullet, which is a penguin. Which is basically like a penguin pal. But then there's a dungeon boss you can fight called Pen King, which definitely carries some of the same designs. But it's funny, you read the pal deck on him, and it says there is no relation to the Pengullet. They're just kind of similar style pals, and they kind of just fit in their own kind of grooves essentially. And I think that actually ends up working out better, because now I'm cool with just Pengullet hanging around. He's my little dude. He's my little penguin. He's just gonna go around. He's just gonna vibe.
I want to say, Pengullet, I have a bone to pick with you. We had like 2 or 3 Pengullets in our base, and if anyone saw the stream yesterday, Tiny, I know you did. Yesterday, we were trying to hatch some eggs, and they were a little cold. So in our wooden house, we put a bunch of fires. And
nice.
Fire spread is on, fellas. And fire spread is very real, and it's very fast. And Pengullet just kind of watched it go up in flames. So yeah, be careful with your bases. That's all I want to say. If you're making out of fire or wood, it can catch fire very easily. And fox sparks and other things that cast fire, I've also heard that if you get raided and flames come out of them at all, it could catch your base. So be careful with that as well.
That's good to know. That's good to know. I may have to switch over my.
I do want to take over for one thing with the pals, because the design. We're all over. We're all around it. We're hitting all the notes, because they did perfect with the designs, with not doing evolutions, kind of skipping that middleman, and just getting right to the point. But also not just the designs, but something that they did with pals that Arc, I guess, didn't do as well, which I thought Arc was pretty much perfect. There was just some nuance that was annoying with Arc, but now I realize you can have a better version of it, which is in this game, flyers. Jesus, the flyers. Dude, I don't know if you guys have all gotten flyers or anything yet, anyone out there listening, but Nightwing is one of the first flyers I got, and Nightwing alone, and it's not probably attributed just to Nightwing, but a flyer in that game actually does what it does. It flies. Now in an Arc, it's really cool to have the Argentavius like land and like waddle walk around, because he's like basically a giant chicken bird, and that's so cute, and I don't mind that. But when you fly with a flyer in Arc, it consumes stamina, period. No matter what, whether you're going up, whether you're going down, whether you're flying in a straight line across the ground, it consumes stamina. And then the worst part about Arc is when you fly into water. Now, again, this is from an Arc lover. I love Arc. I'm addicted to it. When you fly into water, or even slightly close to water, your pixels touch at all. It kicks you off the bird and puts your character in the water. immediately. And so then your bird, if you don't know how to properly whistle right, your bird will just fly around in circles and sometimes fly off into the sky. So you can't get back on. So you're just trapped in the water, either full of alligators or no stamina, and you just die. Or breath, or you're too cold, or whatever. This game doesn't do that. Palworld, if you have a flyer, you can fly right over water, no problem. There is no stamina there is stamina if you want to go higher, but if you just want to walk across the water with it, or fly in this case, if you want to fly across the water with it, you can. No stamina required. And that is incredible.
I think that brings an interesting point up, that I think one of the things that's making Palworld so fun right now is a core tenet, you could say, of the survival game genre is realism, right? It's like, oh, well, like, yeah, your bird touched the water, so now like birds can't fly in water, so we're gonna like knock you off. Like it interrupts a lot of the fun for realism a lot of times. And I get that's something that a lot of people enjoy. But I do think Palworld kind of exceeds those games because it doesn't stop for realism. It remembers it's a video game, and it shouldn't try to stop the fun at any moment.
So you mean my squirrel can't have machine guns?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Realism. Squirrels can't use submachine guns. Get that out of here. But that's the thing, is like, so many people want to like attribute this game to just being Pokemon with guns, and I'm like, it's so much more than that.
It really
guys. It's so much more than that. Like, that's what we thought the meme was gonna be when we originally saw this like 2 years ago, when we were like, oh yeah, like we saw that trailer and everyone's like, there's no way this game comes out. 2, it's just Pokemon with guns, and so it's a meme. And now we're here and it's taken over. But oh, sorry, before I get too sidetracked, on the realism side, yeah, I do think that it just taking out a lot of that realism aspect and remembering that it's a game and remembering that it's supposed to be fun, even out of like minor things where it's like, some Pokemon games are, you can only be catching one Pokemon at a time. Even in the newer, like walking around survival things, you can only really be catching one at a time. Whereas this one, if I'm fighting 3 things at once, I can like throw a ball over there, keep fighting, and it's still catching. And then I can throw a ball at the other one that I'm fighting,
Absolutely.
and they'll start catching. And so it never stops to basically be like, no, you can't do that. It almost always is like, no, go for it. Like, keep doing these different things that you want to do. Like thus far, I've not ran into a blocker where it's like, no, you can't do that. That breaks the rules. It's very good about being like, do what's fun. What is going to be fun to you, and just do that.
Right. I'm sure that they're going to add more things to this game. Obviously, it's early access, but
yes,
and they're going to add these things but I do have a couple, I wouldn't say complaints. It's just like they hit on every quality of life that I ever wanted in a survival game, like literally every one of them. And they even took my childhood dream of being able to just run around and catch Pokemon in an open world and crushed it. They did not crushed it in a good way. They did everything right with what I wanted as a kid. Like, I remember thinking Pokemon Stadium might be something like that. Nope, it's 3D Pokemon battles, so that's fine. Pokemon Coliseum, Pokemon 3D battles, so that's fine. And then Arceus finally did it, kind of, but it's not still what we wanted. It's not this open world. It just doesn't feel the same. This does everything like that. And like you said, you can catch multiple at a time and all that stuff, but their quality of life is insane. Like, everything that I usually complain about in survival games, or what is annoying to me, they've fixed it. But there's a couple things, and I can't think of, this is why they're not even that major, but one of them I can think of. And this is probably for 2 reasons. 1, because they just haven't added it yet. And 2, because, they probably want you to actually like scroll through and see everything. But whenever you go to your technology to learn your new things you can build for your base,
right, yeah.
You have to just scroll through it. There is no search bar. And in Arc, you could be like, oh, well, I wonder if we eventually get stone instead of wood. Stone, and you can type it in, and then it'll show you.
Okay.
Or if you want to see it really quick, so you're like, oh, you didn't unlock that. I need to go unlock that. Lettuce field, or wheat patch, or whatever. You can't do that in this. And I'm sure eventually they'll add it, or they won't, because they want you to actually look through all of your options. So it's kind of like, it's not a big deal, but it would be nice to be able to search. But I mean, that's really my only thing I really complain about. I mean, it's so
Which is
good.
crazy, which is crazy, not even just for the fact of like, how good is this game that like a menu filter is our number one complaint, but
Yeah.
also an early access
Early
game.
access,
This
exactly.
this game isn't even 1.0 and we're already like, I don't know, I guess I could use a menu filter. And like, that's the biggest feedback we have right now.
Right,
Like,
right.
otherwise we're like, just keep doing you, man. Like you're crushing it. You're absolutely crushing it.
And that's another thing too, is like even like I said, the smallest quality of life, like climbing, like a Breath of the Wild style climbing, where you can where it's like, oh, I'm almost at the top of the thing. You don't have to find a random slope and jagged edge of something. You can just climb it. You can just climb it. So many survival games don't allow you to do this. Why? I'm looking at you, devs. Ark 2, please let us climb stuff.
That's what, and once again, that's kind of what I mean is like they never at once go like, oh no, realism stops this. You can't be carrying 500 pounds and climb up a wall. That's unrealistic. Palworld's just like, nah, bro, go for it. You want to do that? Live your best life like that. And I feel like that's just like seeped into all the design aspects of the game where they're really just like, how do you want to play it? Play it that way and kind of really build out. If you want to just be doing a lot of base building and everything, you can do that. If you want to go out and be catching and battling and doing all this stuff, there's dungeons and bosses. If you just want to explore, there's the little effigies to find and everything like that.
You know what? You just hit it. You said something about the bosses. Now I want to go on to the other types of things. That is one thing.
Sure.
So in Ark, that is so annoying. I don't know how much you've ever played Ark. I know you're not a survival guy, but did you ever dabble into Ark?
I think I loaded it up like once.
It is a very good game.
Good.
It is very addicting, right? But we always had to play it on a custom server where we turned down taming rates, or turned up rather taming rates. So we'd do like 10x taming, or it was like 2 or 3 times taming rates, 2 or 3 times gathering rates, and then breeding and egg hatching was like 10 times or 50 times, because that some of that stuff literally took you a week. Like literally to hatch a wyvern egg, it would take you a week. And who has a week? Who has a week to hatch an egg? It's like that's like a real life wyvern, And so, but going back to when you said something about bosses, that's kind of the big point. Ark, for example, the bosses in Ark, not only are they impossible to get to, but even whenever you get to the point to be able to fight them, it's just a, do you have 500 T-Rexes check? And so the boss looks amazing. It's a giant winged griffin, or it's a griffin with like flame, or like a manticore. It's actually one of the first bosses in Ark is a manticore. It's this giant lion griffin flaming snake boss, and it's so cool. But it's just a bullet sponge to T-Rex bites. That's it. And it's so hard. If you try to go there, if you play the game, base game, like no mods, no nothing, just base game, if you played for 100 hours, I would still guarantee you probably wouldn't be ready for that boss. I'm not joking. That's kind of crazy. And that's the first boss. Now imagine how hard the other bosses are. And they just damage soakers. Speaking of damage check, I mean, that is the damage check.
That is a damage check.
And Palworld does not do that. Palworld wants you to fight the bosses. So the first boss you fight, it's in the tutorial. It tells you at the top of the screen, go fight this trainer and her mon. And it's not an easy fight, but it's doable for a beginner. And then
wait, really? Is it? Because I went and fought it, and I got my ass beat.
But it is
merciless.
But it is doable. Eventually, you get level 15. You get 2 mons out, like Daydream, and you can have a mon out, and you can keep throwing your party out, and then you get a 3-shot bow. But these are all things that are attainable and obtainable up to level 15, 16, 17. So, and if you have a party of 4, which you can go in as 4. It only doubles the health, so you have 4 times the firepower, but double the health. It's not that bad.
The health, so okay, that makes sense.
But even then, solo, it is a difficult time, but it's not an impossible feat like other games like Ark. Ark has bosses, and they look amazing, but it is actually impossible. I have thousands of hours in Ark. I've never fought a boss. Never.
Damn.
We tried one time.
Just because they're that difficult, or has the allure of it like just worn off to where you're like, I just don't care?
A little bit of both, because we always did want to do it, but really that's not why we played Ark. That is so like if there were 10 reasons why I played Ark, that would not be one of them. And if there were 10 reasons why I played Palworld, the bosses would be one of them. And so it fits. And and they're attainable. Like I said, they are attainable. Like we went to the boss, we went in, I got my ass whooped the first time solo, and then I went with my 4 friends, and we still were getting our ass whooped a little bit, but we ended up winning. And like that's what it's about. Like you shouldn't be impossible. It's still like you said, it's at the end of the day, it's a game, and the devs know that.
Yes. Yeah, it's a game, and they want you to have fun with it. I'm gonna have to go back and try to refight that boss, because I think I tried fighting them at like
elements also matter, my friend. Get a ground type.
I have learned that. My boy Gummoss. I'm just gonna pop out Gummoss and be like, hit him with it.
With
Go.
the sand attacks, exactly.
Yeah, just hit him with it. Get him. No, I'll definitely have to go back and retry that. I think I also probably tried it at a too low level. I think I might have been like level 11 or 12 or something when I had tried it. So that also probably could be a good reason why that ended up happening. Yeah, as far as, you know, you kind of went over some of your things that you would want. I can't even think of what I would want other than just like keep feeding me content, like keep on giving me more stuff to go after, keep on giving me more stuff to work towards. And even then, like I almost worry to say that, because like you can get up to level 50 in this game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not fast. I feel like once you hit the 20s, maybe even a little bit before that, you start to slow down pretty dramatically. You know, there are, you know, I've learned that like going out and catching pals is definitely the #1 way to level up quickly. But even then, I can't imagine hitting level 50 very quickly. You know, at least in my instance, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are already level 50 and they're like, oh yeah, it was easy. I just did this, and this, you know, over and over and over again. Yeah, exactly. But like for an everyman, especially for somebody like me who, like I said, I do not play survival games really. Like Minecraft is the survival game I put the most time into. Everything else usually gets at max like a 20 hours for me. And then, like I said, by that time I've already kind of built up my base in my house, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, I guess the game's done.
Right.
And so, but yeah, I legitimately do think that this is a game that I will come back to. Like anytime they do content updates, I hope that they do like semi-consistent content updates. Like give me like, you know, once every, you know, 2 months, give me kind of some new stuff. You know, especially since this is in early access right now, just start like really pumping out those changes. I would love that, just to kind of give me more reason to keep going. But again, I don't even think I would really run out of stuff to do for a while in this game, especially since, like, you know, I set up a dedicated server with my guys and everything like that, and that's going to help out a lot. Like, I love it.
Absolutely. I think too that they're in such a good position, because not only did they almost hit #1 on Steam, they hit #2 on the Steam charts. And of course, it's a survival game. It's not a competitive shooter, or it's not a competitive game. So there will not be extreme longevity. Like obviously the hype is there, and the hype is real. It's worth it. It is a game that is a good game. Will everybody, will all 800,000 people be playing it next month? Probably not, because it's a survival game. It gets grindy and it gets tedious. Not the game, it's not Palworld itself, but the nature of survival games get that way. And that's fair, but they're in such a good position because they're in this monster catching game. And what's the best monster catcher? Pokemon, right? So all they have to do is pull the Ark, right? Ark just releases new maps and a couple new creatures, some fantasy, some real. That's all they got to do. They release a new archipelago kind of deal, a new world, and then once they release that new map, everyone's coming back. And then they add Gen 2, just like Pokemon. Instead of 111, now there's 211. And boom, we have another resurgence, and you have new mons to work for you, new reasons to come back and play and catch more. And like, they're in such a good position, both on the survival end and on the monster catching end. They're a war at two fronts that they are winning.
Yeah, they are definitely winning. So actually, to bring in a little bit of news, you know, you mentioned that they were #2 most concurrent, you know, at one point. And right now it still is. It's #2 right now, close to about 700K people playing right now, which is only 111K below Counter-Strike 2, and it
Which
is
is insane.
Saturday, like, afternoon right now. So I think it'll probably end up climbing even more, especially as we get towards evening. But let me blow your mind even more. I don't know if you saw this, but it broke top 10 of all time. So at 855K, it is number, what is that? That is number 8 on top 10 of all time concurrent players.
There we go.
It beat out games like Cyberpunk 2077, to put that in perspective. Not only that, that makes it the highest concurrent player survival game ever. And that's just on Steam. Remember, this is on Game Pass.
Right.
So they've got at least like 100K plus probably playing on Game Pass right now as well. If I had to wager a guess.
Now, I do have a question for you that I haven't talked to about anyone with. So the company, if I'm correct, Pocket Pair?
Pocket Pair, I believe, is the company.
Just to make sure I'm not misspeaking here. Yes, Pocket Pair.
Yeah, Pocket Pair.
Don't know what else they've made, but I do want to ask you, do you know what size they are and what tier they are for damage check?
Man.
That is a curious question that I never got around to talking about with my friends yet. So
if I had to guess,
it looks like they've made other games. Craftopia is something else that they've made.
Yeah, it looks like Craftopia's one.
Over Dungeon. Never heard of it.
Over Dungeon. That sounds familiar, but I can't remember who it might be. But if I had to guess, I would say they're a tier 2.
Yeah, they can't be very high. It's not a tier 1. There's no way Palworld was made by 2 people.
No. It would have to be like a couple dozen if I had to guess.
That's so impressive.
Though I will say, not to get too into the controversial stuff, but you know what? It's our show. We can talk about some of the controversial stuff. There have been people calling out that their development tools do use some forms of generative AI. And so that probably helped them out a lot in building out this game. Now, granted, once again, we've talked about AI. My personal take on it is we kind of just have to get used to it's going to get used in development, guys. I don't know what else to say.
Most people should be in the camp of we need to abuse it or use it, but not abuse it.
Yes.
And so, are they abusing it? If the answer is no, what are we caring about? Because if it's like for example, if they did it with voices and stuff like that, and they're not paying the actor, then yes, there's a problem there. If they're using it for 3D modeling and art, yes, there's a problem there. If they're copying someone else's, but if they're just using it as a tool to speed up progress. What they've already created, then I don't see a problem with that. Who would?
So from my understanding, at least when I've seen, and I could totally be wrong, things will things will probably start coming more and more to light. But essentially, from what I have been able to figure out, is they essentially made concept art for all the pals. A couple of iterations of concept art, and then they threw that into a 3D generator to essentially generate some baseline assets. To take the concept art into the 3D realm, and then they basically tweaked it from there themselves and kind of went in, cleaned it up, and did whatever they were going to do.
I don't see a problem with that.
Get the design. Neither do I, but again, we live in the world of AI versus never AI, and so, we'll see if that has anything else come to light or on it or anything like that.
Let me say this. On the side of the never AIers, or in my case, the be wary of AI, I should say. Yeah. I am in the camp that if it's a tool to be used and it helps, boom, expedite your process, kings. Let's go. But let's just, for example, this is not happening. Disclaimer: this is not happening. But if Palworld were to use things that were illegally obtained, let's say voices or art, right?
Sure.
Like we talked about last time. And then let's say that is happening. It's not. Again, disclaimer, I don't want to put that on Pocket Pair. But if it were happening, it is still 800,000 players deep. No one cares. That's my problem. If that's the case. Because if that's the case, no one's stopping playing. No one's going to boycott the game. I mean, and if they do, it's going to be 4 people. You know what I mean? No one's... Yeah. So that's my sad fact that will happen. I'm on board with AI. But my sad fact that will happen is there will be thieves. And there will be plenty of thieves.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. And most people will just say, ooh, content. Gimme.
Yes, most people, and this is kind of what I've been saying, where I said it last podcast. I got a little heated with it, and I just said you're just gonna get ran over. The 800,000 people on the other end of that content who want to play Palworld, they're just gonna run you over. And so it's better to just be like, get with Pocket Pair and be like, hey, where was this sourced? If it was sourced by other people or something along those lines, let's make sure that they're getting compensated and everything. But yeah, it's one of those things where even if it came out that they were using generated stuff, it's going to be a drop in the bucket to them, unfortunately. Granted, once again, disclaimer, not happening, but this, if
well,
that
we
was,
don't know, but I doubt it.
I doubt it.
If it's what you said, that seems like honest AI work. I don't mind that.
Yeah, it's not like they just went into Mid-Journey and was like, I don't know, Meowth, but different.
Right.
That's when it's like, all right, maybe this isn't a tool for you anymore. Maybe this is actually just doing all the work.
Right.
But outside of that topic, though, yeah, I'm really excited for how successful this is, and I do think I give it a little bit more credit than other survival games as far as like staying power. Obviously some survival games have had staying power. Rust is pretty commonly in the top 10 concurrent players, on any given day.
Yeah, but this is a little bit different in that aspect. Rust doesn't really have an end game. The end game with Rust is how you make it. This game clearly has end game and goals. So the thing that is going to keep its staying power, not that it's not good, but there's a goal. Like if you get 10 of every mon, which will take you, or PAL, which will take you a long time.
Yeah, it'll take you a decent amount of time,
obviously, but and then you beat all the gyms or all the the whatever, the towers and the trainers. Then if you've done all that, the game is pretty much done for that person who did that. Now, obviously, it's going to take you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours, but that's when the game is done. Technically, there is no because the reason Rust and all that shit is so popular still is because you can walk around and talk to somebody and go, hey, I'm in your base. And they're like, where are you? There's a PvP aspect to it, which this game is going to implement. They've talked about it, but they want to make it perfect and unique to Palworld. So they haven't yet, but they are working on it. So we're getting that.
That'll be really good. I will absolutely love that, dude.
Right. So I think that's maybe where that longevity comes from. But as it stands right now, there is a finite game that we have in front of us.
So this actually kind of brings up an interesting question. I want to ask you a hypothetical. How do they fumble this?
They don't. I don't see it. Unless they just
you don't
shut
think there's
down
anything
the servers
that
like tomorrow.
Well, yeah,
like they would have to actually hit a kill switch. I mean, what could they do? I mean, what the fumble is that they take the money and run and just let the servers ride out until they die out. But
not necessarily that. But think about it this way. You said that it's going to drop off, right?
But I don't mean it makes it's going to be a bad drop off. It's just the nature of a survival game, especially a finite one.
But do you think that how do they keep kind of the momentum that they have right now? Like, for example, do you think within the next 6 months, do you think Palworld is still going to be in that top 10 concurrent players? Not of all time, but just like currently you go to Steam charts any given day and it's going to be in the top 10.
In 6 months, no, absolutely not.
Okay. How do you think they keep it there?
You can't. This is the type of game that you just can't. Like Elden Ring, for example, will never be up there again, right? Like unless something new comes out. So Palworld, for example, will have to give us Gen 2 or full release, or give us that content that we need to come back because we want to explore that content. Right now, we're going to get that for the next few months because everybody's going to be playing it, but it will not remain on concurrent. Because I mean, let's look at them real quick. So just so I can eat my own words here.
I've got it right here, so I'll read it for listeners. Currently, number 1 is Counter-Strike 2. Number 2 is Palworld. Number 3 is Dota 2. Number 4 is Baldur's Gate 3. Number 5 is PUBG Battlegrounds. Number 6 is Grand Theft Auto 5. Number 7 is Rust. Number 8 is Call of Duty. Number 9 is Lethal Company. And number 10 is Apex Legends. That is, at this very moment, on a Saturday as we were recording, the top 10 concurrents.
So, other than Baldur's Gate, which is a game that has hundreds of hours, and it just won Game of the Year, because Baldur's Gate will start to slowly fall down too after people have beaten it and played it. But there is a lot to explore, so we'll have some time. People will jump in and out because there's so much time in that game, but it is also finite. But everything else.
But are you ever going to reach that finality with it? With a lot of these players, is the bigger question. I think
probably not. But I do think it's just something that just. I mean, it's still not even a year old. It's barely 6 months old. Actually, I don't even think it's 6 months yet. It's not even 6 months old yet. And it just won Game of the Year. So, and it just passed Christmas. So a lot of people probably just got it for Christmas. So I don't think Baldur's Gate, I do take it seriously because it literally won Game of the Year and it well deserved it. But I don't think that this kind of counts in what we're talking about. But if you take that out, even with it, it's still in the minority. It's kind of an anomaly of its own. Everything else has either complete competitive PvP, which is obviously recurring. We've literally lived in that age since 2001. Or even earlier with early Dooms and stuff. But, so yeah, all of this is either PvP. I mean, the only thing that's not actual full-on PvP is Lethal Company, but that is also brand new. And it is content heaven. So all of the Twitch streamers, all of the YouTubers, everybody's playing Lethal Company. It is brand new still. Take out Baldur's Gate, take out Lethal Company, everything on there is PvP other than Palworld, but it just also came, like literally just came out yesterday. But you take out those and everything else is full on PvP and they're older than a year.
Okay.
Everything.
You putting that into perspective, I do see that. But I do wonder, man, I don't know, because like I get that Rust does have that PvP aspect, but I do think that Palworld 1, I think, has enough content to keep it going for at least a while. Like, let's say I think it has enough content for at least the next 3 months. And I also wonder, I guess this is what I mean by fumbling is, do you think they're going to sit on this for long enough to where it really starts to fall off? Because, for example, I guess you're right. With the next 3 months, 4 months, I could see it to where they start to they're in like the top 20 or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
They'll still maintain because it's a survival game that everybody wants to play. Arc is probably, I mean, where's Arc? Arc is probably still a good number. Can we see all these?
Yeah, you can go to the full list. Arc not in the top 25.
But here, that's a perfect example. Elden Ring. Nothing new recently has come out besides maybe mods, and that's number 22. It still deserves it. It's an amazing game. It was 2022 Game of the Year. Of course it's still up there. But it's not top 10 and it won't ever be again.
Until Shadow of the Erdtree comes out, and then that's going straight back up.
Right, and that's kind of where Palworld is going to sit in 6 months as well.
Interesting. Okay.
Palworld will probably be around that 25 to 20 mark until at the 6 month mark. Then the moment they say full release, the moment they say Gen 2, the moment they say, new map, new pals, anything like that, right back
new
up.
Content.
Any new content it's right back up.
So basically what you're saying is that unless they do something really stupid, this has now cemented itself as a survival game kind of juggernaut in a way.
Yes. I think that it is the survival game. I don't think that survival games, aside from Rust, are going to be top 10 remaining. And the only reason Rust is because Ark is just Rust without dinosaurs, or with dinosaurs. So, because Ark and Rust are essentially the same thing. Rust is a bit more hardcore, and it's also content driven. I mean, you go as a naked up to somebody's base. I have nothing going on here, and they're like, what? And you pull out a rocket launcher and blow up their whole base or whatever. Like there's always some funny stuff that can happen with those things and content. The rest of it is full on PvP. I mean, no, like because for example, GTA 5 rather, sorry, GTA 6 would definitely be on the top. GTA 5 is number 6, and with 146,000 current players, almost, I would guarantee that 1% of those are playing by themselves. The other 99% are playing, and it's obviously not PvP fully, but they're definitely playing GTA Online. So that's kind of my point, is like Palworld, while it is online and it is a survival game, it is so good, but it can only be so good for so long, for that many people to continuously play it, because there's not just replayability after you've reached that finality. And I don't think that there is going to be very many people that even get there before they stop, because that's just kind of how it is. I mean, so many people played Ark, for so long, and I guarantee most of those players never touched a boss.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar thing where, Bungie's gone on record of saying that of all Destiny 2 players, I think it was like 10 or 11% have actually done a raid, which I'm
there
like,
you go.
I'm like, that's insane, bro. That's the best content in the game. How are you not doing that? But
and they quit before then, so it's kind of my point.
That's fair. See, this is why I love talking to you, because you give me the insight into kind of the vector of gaming that I'm not in. I'm not into survival games.
That's why this podcast is so good, because you give me the vector of like why these games are good or bad, because the funding or the team size, etc. I don't know those things typically. So yeah, I mean, I think we pair very well together.
Because in my brain, just looking at my vector, I'm like, oh, they ride this to the moon, but I don't think about like players kind of and the way that they move across these games.
Ride this to the moon, my brother. They are at the moon.
That's true. They ride this to Mars. I mean,
just based on peak players, 855K. Do the math on that. That's $27. Let me calculate that real quick. Now, obviously, there's Game Pass, but this is Steam only.
This is Steam only. So these are all.
I'm just gonna do a flat 855K times 27 because it is on sale. That is a cool $23 million on day one.
Damn. To the moon and back to the moon.
They sold 1 million copies in 8 hours.
Okay, so
and I'm sorry to say, Pocket Pair, you could have charged 40. Everyone would have still bought it. Just saying.
Honestly, yeah, they could have, and I would have probably still
bought it. I thought it was going to be 40, to be honest.
To be fair though, I think that 30 is kind of the perfect mark for especially early access.
No, I agree.
Because it lets people like you and me, we're like, oh yeah, we'll buy that. But it also lets us get our skeptical friends, the ones that are always like, I don't know if I'm
especially
gonna buy
being on that 10% sale so early. 27 bucks, that's not even 30.
You're like, dude, it's open world monster catching. Just come and play it. And at $26, I'm like, it would honestly be more money for us to go sit down and eat somewhere, man. Like, come on, just go ahead and pick it up, order a pizza. Boom, there you go. There's
I had 3 friends, 2 of which said they're only going to play on Game Pass. They already have it on Steam. It only took a couple hours of convincing. They got it on Steam. And then another friend today literally said, I don't know. I like survival games. I don't know, but I think it just doesn't look fun to me. Everything I've seen, it doesn't look fun. It doesn't look fun. It doesn't look fun. And then someone goes something, and he's like, it still just doesn't look that fun to me. And then 4 minutes later, he's playing it going, whoa, what is this? This is cool. Oh, this thing's right here. It's on me. Start a guild with me. So, it will pull you in.
It will. It 100% will. Now, before we move on from Palworld, because we could spend the whole podcast talking on this, but I do want to touch on some of the news. But I do want to ask your opinion on the Pokemon factor. Do you think Pokemon Company gets after them, or do you think anything kind of happens, or do you think there's enough thin lines to where Pokemon companies be like, all right, we'll leave you alone?
Do you mean legally?
legally, basically. Yeah.
They can't do anything. What could they do? They're not called Pokemon. They're not called. I mean, you could. As far as I know, they could even name one of them Ninetales, or probably not Pikachu, because Pikachu's very, the one.
Very
but you could probably name them one of the other names. Like the names are not proprietary.
Man, I wonder if
I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. But
yeah, I'm not a lawyer either. But I do wonder if like halfway through development they brought in like copyright lawyers and just like paid them to like just fine tooth comb every single piece of content and be like, there can be no way Pokemon Company can come after us. You have to make sure that Pokemon Company cannot come after us.
This is why I don't think it is. First off, some of them resemble Pokemon, but so does any monster ever in any game ever. You know what I mean? You can make there's Pokemon that look like humans. There's Pokemon that are a set of keys. Ford, not you, but the motor company Ford is not suing them for having a keychain or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like you can't just do that because because they don't own the genre, right? They don't own the monster catching genre. But the problem is they're so. I understand why. This is the reason why. This is the psychology why people think, oh, Pokemon's going to sue the crap out of them or something like that. First off, they can't. I genuinely don't believe they can. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, but I don't believe that they can. Second off, they just, like I said, there's nothing proprietary about it. Like the Titans are Pokemon. Like the Titan in the industry they are the biggest franchise in the world, and they're the biggest toy and video game franchise in the world. And so they seem like they're untouchable. If you make a monster catching game, Cassette Beast, Tim, Palworld in this case, there's tons of there's like 5 or 6 other ones that are pretty prominent. None of them can be sued as far as I know, because you don't own the monster catching genre. That's like saying, oh, well, Rust needs to sue Ark for making another survival game with guns. You just can't do that.
No, but I do think that at least with Nintendo and Pokemon Company, I mean, one, they'll sue anybody. You're a 12-year-old who made a mod, get sued. But I think that's
because they're actually using Pokemon.
I'm not going to argue that they have a case, but I will argue that Temtem and Cassette Beast and things along those lines made very, very specific choices to avoid any sort of instead of using balls and Cassette Beasts, you use cassettes. Instead of in Temtem, you use like cards and stuff like that. The Pokeball has been like one big thing. Like, oh, you catch the thing with the ball. And Palworld, I mean, it's a sphere, but like, I feel like Palworld feels different because I feel like it is towing like a pretty clear line.
I mean, I'm not saying that there's not comparisons, because my friends literally cannot stop calling them Mons or Pokemon. I mean, I accidentally said it a second ago, and I try my best to respect Pocket Pair and what they've created. But ultimately, when you have a Titan and you got a little baby coming in, like, you're gonna just remember what the Titan was. It's hard. It's hard to retrain your brain. But for example, not every like a Hat in Time is not Mario, but it does everything that Mario does. Celeste is not Mario, but it does everything that Mario does.
Fair. That's fair.
And so, Nintendo can't sue Extremely OK Games because Celeste had a Mario Easter egg in it.
I don't know. I guess I just feel like I mean, even
if they called them Pal Balls, it's different. It's not the same.
See, if they call them Pal Balls, I do feel like in a way Nintendo could probably get in with that whole these rarely go anywhere, but if it was going to go somewhere, I feel like Nintendo would be the one to make it go somewhere, which is someone could mistake it for our IP, essentially. Like, for example, like there was a news story, I can't remember if we covered it last week or not, but there was a news story where essentially Rockstar was going to sue for trademark infringement on Remedy because both their logos had an R in it, like a stylized R. And it's like, the argument was like, oh, you could possibly confuse the Remedy logo for Rockstar. And it's like, no one's doing that. No one's doing that. But in courts, that's the argument that they'll make, is that you could mistake this thing with our IP or with our thing. And so I do think if they called it a Palball, I do feel like Nintendo would be like, we're in there. You could mistake that for a Pokeball. Get sued.
It's close enough. Yeah, I could see that. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so I have no clue, no ground to stand on. I just don't think that you know who should get fucking sued? These people that they say that it's original art on Redbubble or all these other freaking websites.
Oh yeah,
and they make stickers. And I've made this claim before, and I know it's a hot topic, but I have an artist for a wife, and she is an incredible artist. Shout out to Siren Sketches. Her first video came out yesterday. By the way, check her out on YouTube, Siren Sketches. She is an incredible artist. She does original pieces, and there's artists similar to her that will make things on Redbubble and Etsy and stuff like that and sell them. And it's literally Pikachu and Charmander from Pokemon. And for some reason, no one cares. They're just like, yeah, I'll buy this. And it's like, you're not affiliated with Pokemon. This is illegal. You are stealing. And I understand, oh, you're stealing from Pokemon, the biggest company on the world. You're right. But if we make that exception for them, who's to say that anyone, AI, can steal from you?
Yeah, it's a very, very cyclical conversation.
So that's annoying to me. So I don't think that I think that it's like clearly there's parallels to be drawn.
Sure, of course.
But I don't think that they have a case. Again, I could be absolutely wrong. But the thing is, I think that if anything, the Pokemon company is like, shit.
Yeah, we actually have to try
now. I don't think that Pokemon needs a survival game. Like literally, I think if you take this game, nix the survival game, nix the not the open world, so get rid of the survival aspect of it, or not get rid of it, but tone it down a little bit. Tone it down a little bit, because it is kind of the lifeblood of it with the pals moving around and stuff like that. But you tone it down a little bit, and then you make it single player or just co-op, which they kind of already do if you don't have a server. You make it Breath of the Wild, or you make it, the new Zelda open world.
Yeah,
Dunzo. You have like if that's Pokemon, you make Pokemon Breath of the Wild, which is basically what Palworld is on a larger scale because it's survival. Dunzo. Pokemon would skyrocket, but they're not going to do that, and that's the problem. They're not going to do that. They tried it with Arceus, and they tried something, and it was hit or miss. Because everyone still loves Sword and Shield, everyone still loves Scarlet and Violet, everyone still loves New Diamond, New Pearl, Brilliant, whatever they were called. But Arceus was like, I kind of liked it, I kind of didn't, I kind of did, some people did, and some people didn't, and it's like, is it because it's so different, or is it because you actually use them and see them in battle? It's still kind of turn-based, but your character's there. Just make it open world and not turn-based. This is a prime example. You don't have to be turn-based.
Yeah, just toss them out, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'll go fight that guy," and then they go fight him.
Yeah, just put cooldowns on it. That's your turn.
Exactly. Yeah, I was gonna say something similar where it's like I almost think more Tears of the Kingdom, because Tears of the Kingdom is very survival game.
Well, I said Breath Wild, but same, whatever. Same thing.
Same concept. Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, I feel like is kind of has like that level of survival that I think could work in a Pokemon.
That's
game.
What I'm. Yeah, exactly.
If they were to go that route, but like you said, they probably won't. Pokemon Company, I mean, they. And
why
I don't even want to
stuck on turn-based, because that different like you don't have to call it red and blue or another color. Just make it Pokemon Breath of the whatever you would call it.
I think it just comes down to they make so many Pokemon projects, and there's been stories and stuff that have come out before about like how quick the turnaround is on some of these things. I think that because they are just in the Pokemon generation machine, there's just not a ton of room. There's not a ton of room for innovation. And also from the business perspective, I'm sure not everybody in the studios feel this way, but from the businessman perspective, they'll be like, you're saying you want to add in 2 years of development and we're not going to sell anymore. We're still going to sell the like 80 bajillion copies we would have sold if we just spent a year on development.
Right.
Yeah. Decline. We're just going to spend the year on development, put out what we put out, and it's still going to sell 80 bajillion copies because it's Pokemon. And I think Pokemon is fine being in that space. if anything, to argue against myself, the reason why I think that maybe they wouldn't end up even suing Palworld is they're probably like, cool, have that space. We don't care. We're not going to go for that space. Because I think that until something dramatic happens with Pokemon, they're not going to really shake things up a ton.
You're right. They don't need to. They're comfy.
They don't need to. Yeah. And that's kind of the bottom line is they don't need to. I'm sure there's people at those studios. I'm sure there's people in the Pokemon company who are like, man, I want to do this. I want to, like, there are 100% is people there that want to do these
You're
things.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the higher up business guy will look at two proposals. One says, oh yeah, it'll take about a year and a half. It'll be pretty similar to the last. It'll be pretty similar to the last Pokemon game, but it'll have this added new, evolution thing. Cleared versus the other pitch comes on the desk. It'll take like 5 years. We're gonna experiment with a couple of different things. We're gonna try to generate, do this, that, and the other. Blah blah blah. Declined. Absolutely not. It's not gonna make us more money.
That's fair. That's a good point. So to cover that whole basis, I do not think that they really have any ground to stand on. Personally, that's my opinion. I don't legally know, but I don't think they have any ground to stand on. And then, like you said, to add on to it, why would they care? They're not in the space.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's not actually taking their space. No one who is playing Palworld right now, like I wasn't going to buy the next Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
And so
they're not taking their business.
Yeah, they're not taking their business, and people are still going to come up and show up for what is it, generation 11, 10, something? I don't know. Whatever the next generation Pokemon is. So anyways, I think that's enough Palworld talk for today, don't you think?
Yeah, it's been an hour. We can move on. We have some touch and go topics that we need to get to. Nothing too crazy. We can roll it out probably at the 2 hour mark. We have 45 minutes to cover the rest of this stuff. We hit the what you've been playing, the Prince of Persia, and Palworld, obviously the Titan right now. So yeah, if you want to put us into another topic.
Yeah, sure. So let's go. We'll work our way down the list, and I'll maybe jump around in a couple places. But next up, news stories for you guys all. News. AG2Q is on right now. Have we been watching any? And do we like speed runs? What's kind of the vibe on speed runs? And HP, I feel like this is definitely a your space thing. So I'm going to let you take over on this and tell me about it. I guess I'll start out by saying I have been watching AG2Q. It's been a great time. I love watching it. It's great background stuff while I'm playing games. That's about my extent of it. HP, take the reins. Tell me about speedrunning and why it's great.
So a long time ago, so speedrunning is great. If you haven't watched your favorite game ever be ran, do it. Everyone who is listening, if you've never seen your favorite game speedran, go now and go watch it after this podcast. After you listen to this, go and watch your favorite game be ran because it will blow your mind. Huge fan of speedrunning. Sirens and I watch every AGDQ as much as we can. We don't typically watch them live because we like to pick apart what games we want to see because I don't really care to watch some games. So we find our good time slots and we just watch them on YouTube. But yeah, I have nothing to fully report. We don't have to stay on it too long. I do think that everyone should watch their game be dissected the way that these talented, very, very, very talented runners do. I watched a couple of the glitch runs for Mario Maker 2 with Carl Sagan 42. Very talented, very smart scientist who does actual science in the real world and then also uses that scientific process to break down Mario Maker 2 and do glitches and all kinds of stuff. So it's really cool to see him intertwine science and Mario and actually because he's a scientist who actually works on like norovirus vaccines and stuff like that.
Damn, crazy.
But so he's very, very established in the scientific community and he also plays Mario Maker. So he uses this scientific method and it's just very, 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 very cool to see. But he's not he does do runs, but he didn't do a run this time. They just kind of showcased the glitches. And then I watched a couple other speed runs here and there, but I have a backlog right now to watch AGDQ, but I was just making it aware for anyone who is interested in speed runs, go support AGDQ. They're doing it for good reasons. It's typically for cancer research. I don't know the exact charity this time because sometimes they're different, but it is always about cancer research. So definitely something worth going to support if you have some funds to throw into that, or just watching does support them. But yeah, go check out your favorite game. They probably ran it because these time slots were incredible. We got games like Mario Sunshine, Mario Odyssey, Batman Arkham City, you name it. They're doing it these past few weeks. A lot of them. Even Elden Ring has like a 35-minute run. So
Crazy.
yeah, so I definitely recommend go checking those out.
It is the Prevent Cancer Foundation is the current charity that they are supporting.
Yep. And so they always do these fundraisers or charities in support of cancer prevention and cancer therapy and stuff like that. So definitely go check them out to support that, and go watch your favorite runs. That's really all I have to say about it.
And I'll even say they have great other ways you can support. You know, if you're one of those people that kind of wants to get a little something out of it, which is totally fine. You know, you still want some of your money to go to it. They have partnered with the Yeti, the t-shirt company, to make some t-shirts and everything for AGDQ. And the designs are really, really cool. I would highly recommend going and checking out some of those. If you'd like to get a little something for your money, a lot of that money is going to end up going to that charity. So
there you go.
But yeah, next up, we've got Hogwarts Legacy was the best-selling game of last year. We touched on this a little bit. The sales number was out, but we didn't know if it was the best-selling because we were still waiting on other sales numbers. But yeah, congratulations to the Hogwarts Legacy team.
Very congrats.
You know, big congrats. I will probably never end up playing it because I don't know. I just don't really care about Harry Potter that much. But still, I will say the one thing I'm happy to see, it's not a Call of Duty. And that shows that there's still blood, there's still variety in the game industry, and that does make me happy to see other games be able to kind of trade off that title a lot of the times.
Fully agree.
So, very happy.
Congratulations, Hogwarts Legacy.
Now the next story we got is a smaller one, but I'm going to add on some stuff because we actually have a little bit of breaking news. Plus, it's a Bungie topic, so you know I'm going to talk about it way too much. But Bungie is finally adding a character editor in Destiny 2. Destiny 2. I don't know why I said that word. 2. About 10 years too late. But
that's where I was going to go with it. So you can go ahead and take this one fully.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of interesting how since the layoffs and kind of since the let's call it the dismantling of
that it's gotten better.
That it's oddly getting better now. But I think a lot of that is kind of, they probably have a list, you know, break glass in case of community outrage, break that glass, and there's a list of quality of life improvements. They're like, which one can we knock out in 2 weeks, guys? And I think this is probably a part of a list like that, where it's like, what can we knock out right now to get some player sentiment back? You know, no one's going to come back to the character editor and be like, oh, they fixed the game, I'm coming back to Destiny. But it's a way to increase kind of like players' feelings towards the game and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so, going into kind of this breaking news, it's being reported that apparently, so Bungie was at about 1,100 employees before. They did the layoffs. They lost about 100 employees, give or take. So they're about 1,000 employees, give or take. They've now expanded to 1,400 employees, according to some reports. So they've now gone up 400 people in development. Research is going on this and seeing if this is factual, but this comes from a couple of different leaks that have happened. I will go into what the content of the leaks are, but something interesting is about it is on these leaks, they were on some art stations, and they said textures done by Bungie, or design done by Bungie, and other work done by PlayStation in-house studios. And so it sounds like Bungie is kind of going back to how things were in the Activision days, where, if you guys don't know, Bungie did not make, Destiny 2 took a village, essentially. There was multiple teams from Activision that were support staff for Destiny 2 that helped make content, which is why back in like the Forsaken days, we got like we got like 4 raids a year. We got like tons of crazy stuff because of those support teams. You know, for example, if you're familiar with the game, Crown of Sorrow is a raid that was not actually developed by Bungie. It was developed by High Moon Studios.
Interesting. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it was not a Bungie created raid. It was actually made by High Moon Studios. And so back then they had a lot of these different support teams that were working on a lot of those different functions. And that's why they could deliver at such a high clip. And then once they left Activision, that's kind of when they even came out and said, like, we're not going to ever be able to do Forsaken again because we're not going to have like 3 to 4 other studios supporting us at one time to help make this content. And it seems like that might be changing, which is an interesting kind of wrinkle in the whole Bungie story of the past few months. Of
it is
Sony,
so weird.
Sony possibly being like, okay, we want to get back to where Forsaken was. So how do we do that? And it seems like maybe the call was, let's get some support studios. Let's get some teams that can help us build out some of the content. You know, Bungie can design it and say, we want to do this, this, and this, and then hand it over to a support team that can 3D model it, can texture it, can, you know, add the different code that needs to be added to it. And so if true, once again, this is kind of breaking news. So we don't know if 1,400 is kind of the correct number. But it does sound like the whole PlayStation Studio support team is kind of a thing that is happening. This could be pretty big for the game. This could kind of be the shot in the arm that it ends up needing. And it actually makes me very excited for kind of what we might end up seeing in the lead up to Final Shape, but also post Final Shape. You know, we kind of talked on this podcast being a little bit doom and gloom on kind of what's the future of Destiny past Final Shape. You know, you and me, we're staying, so we're going to be around, but like, what is the actual long legs look of it? And this kind of fills me with some renewed vigor. I don't know. What about you? What does this news do for you? Because I know I'm breaking it to you right now.
You are breaking it to me. You're even breaking the news that there were other studios working on those raids, and that's kind of, now it makes so much sense of why they felt a little differently loved. Like they didn't feel, you're right, they didn't feel like Bungie, but they didn't feel bad. They fit, you know?
Yeah.
And so you and to be honest, dude, I have nothing to say, but I'm excited. Like, you are breaking this news to me, and isn't it so? I less have statements and more have questions. What is going on? Because my statements are yay, my questions are, what happened? Were these people just sleeping at their desks? Like, I'm not actually tarnishing anyone for losing their jobs. Like, that is awful. It's not good that it happened. We've talked about it a million times. It is not a good thing when anyone loses their jobs, but it is so odd to me what was and what is happening. Is that not so interesting to be like, hey, we laid off a bunch of people, and remember all those changes you guys wanted for the past 6 years? You got them. What? You would think that everything would be slowing down, but everything seems to be picking up. At least picking up at a pace that honestly, from the gamer's perspective, the layman gamer, it just feels like an elongated season so far. Even that, it's not even over yet. It's not even to the point where it would be over yet, right? So it's really not even, or it's about to be to that point. So it doesn't even really feel that different right now as the layman.
Yes.
But there has been like these little nuances, these little quality of life things that are trickling their way in. You know, the editor, to name one, and then the dungeon was great, and the all these little sprinkles that they've done over these past few weeks, or past few months rather, since the layoffs, they're small but very welcome. So yeah, and I'm like, what is that's kind of my thing, is like, what's happening, what was happening, and what is happening. And I can say that I'm happy. I'm not happy that anyone got laid off, but it's very odd.
It is extremely odd. And I would love, for a Jason Schreier kind of like deep dive into, like, 6 months from now, give me a deep dive into like, what did post the layoffs, what did the next 6 months look like for Bungie? Because I really am curious.
Aside from Final Shape actually coming out on time, aside from that.
Yeah, aside from that, because I do feel like it is kind of this odd dichotomy where, they lay off people, and you expect things to kind of slow down. Like, we got to kind of, lick our wounds a little bit, but oddly enough, they've kind of been coming out and being a lot strong. They've been communicating a lot more. Like,
that was one of the biggest things for me, is the communication.
The minute something's wrong in the game now, it's like, yep, we know about it. Here's what we're doing. Here's the plan. Here's the patch rollout. Here's the, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, usually it would be like, oh, like, we'll get to that in like 3 months. And at that point, we're like, well, it's been 3 months now, so we kind of just don't care anymore.
Yeah, we kind of just have to deal with it as gamers, but
yeah, it's just, it is very, very odd. And I'm very curious about I definitely want to know if the support team stuff is true, because if so, that is going to be massive.
Oh, I'm all in on that. You taught me something that, because it's like, again, like my biggest thing is right now is just yay. Like, that is exciting if that leak is real. And usually, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually these Bungie leaks are fairly reliable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different people in the community that are pretty well connected and are pretty good at kind of giving us the real news, I guess you could say.
Well, I say it in the sense of, like, there's also some games, or not even games, but some news worthy outlets and media, whether it's a show, whether it's games, some of them have their trolls where it's like, oh, this thing's gonna happen, and it's a total lie, it's a total troll just to get the community in a rile. I don't feel like that happens too often with Bungie. I feel like typically when there's a rumor, it happens. And even then, like, for example, if your rumor is that studios are stepping in to help and alleviate some of this pressure, that's correct?
Sorry, say that one last time.
That your rumor is essentially that more studios are coming in to kind of alleviate this pressure and help out, right?
Yes. So essentially, yeah, alleviate the pressure and deliver the content.
My point is, with that, the leak, does that matter? If it's wrong, it's not, because it won't. That's why I don't think it will be. And typically these Bungie leaks are always right, because they're nothing. Like, if they were like, oh, Destiny, all raids are going to be free tomorrow, that's a troll, because it's not.
Yes.
Because that's so extravagant. Whereas this is like, if you told the layman this news, the only thing that they can say is, oh, cool.
Yeah.
So you're not really trolling anybody. So that's why I typically believe these kinds of leaks, because there's nothing at stake for lying.
Yeah. There's no like real big kind of street cred or whatever.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's why I believe these leaks typically. And again, all I have to say is yay.
Yeah, pretty much the same here. I will be very curious to see how this kind of shows me that Sony's in for the support of Bungie, which is kind of contrary to kind of what we have heard since the layoffs. And so, big if true, I guess, is kind of the end of this story.
For sure.
Now on to another big if true story. The Halo Battle Royale is dead. It has been canceled. According to sources.
Thank God, because Halo is already
interesting.
Listen. First off, everyone knows HP does not like battle royales. I have had enough of them. I want arena shooters back, baby. And it is. Counter-Strike is here. So they're not gone. But battle royales were reigning for too long, man. I just couldn't stand it. And now we got arena shooters coming back a little bit in a different way. Halo, I think it could be revived with the right people. You got Summit, who's playing it a little bit with mouse and keyboard. They did a little bit of mouse and keyboard tweaks. So now mouse and keyboard feels comfortable. I love Halo, man. Halo is my core. I am a lifelong Halo player, lover. I've been playing it since I can remember. I love it so much. I mean, ever since I was 11 years old playing Halo 1, not competitively, just playing it casually. And then Halo 2 on competitive. HP was in the sticks, literally. I love Halo. However, when Halo Infinite was being created, actually it might have been back in Halo 5, there was rumors that they were going to make a BR because of the popularity with Fortnite and Apex and all that stuff, and the rumors got immediately shut down by the dev team. They tweeted out and said, the only BR we want is the battle rifle. That's what they said, and I was like, you're damn right. Stick to your guns, baby. Literally and metaphorically. But then they said, nah, big boss upstairs said we got to do a battle royale because that's what the kids is loving. And I said, I don't like this. Well, turns out the news is they're canceling it because it was too much effort to put in. As far as I read, I didn't read too much into it. Just saw that it was canceled and I said, yippee. But I was pretty excited to hear that it was canceled. I am not excited to hear that they wasted years of resources on it. because those resources probably could have been better fit to another PvE mode like they did in Halo 5, which I didn't play too much, but I know that it was a fan favorite, and I personally just I love Halo, and I just want it to be fully revived back to. I don't think it has to be as the popularity of the Halo 3 days or the Halo Reach days, but more popular than 2,000 players sometimes. Now, obviously, I'm looking at Steam charts, but it has more than that technically. I don't know about right now. I'm not looking at it, but console probably has much more. But I do wish it was more popular than it is, and it's sad to see that all that talent and resources go to waste that they've spent on the BR, but it is what it is. Get rid of it and make your game good again. The game is good. It just doesn't have the notoriety that the old ones did, or that games like Apex and Fortnite do. So they're taking the space where Halo could, and so I get it. I mean, even the finals, anything hyper competitive like that is gonna just take that space. I mean, the finals, I think, takes the space of Halo, because while it's like Battle Royale light, the finals it's like Battle Royale light, but arena shooter light at the same time. It's like a 50-50 between the two, and it's high time to kill, longer time to kill. Whereas Call of Duty and Apex it fits that space a little bit too, but Call of Duty and some of the other arena shooters like Rainbow Six or Counter-Strike, the time to kill is instant especially if you get a headshot. Halo's never been that way. The finals isn't that way. So I feel like anyone that would occupy the space of Halo, the finals takes that space. So
interesting.
But I am happy that it's canceled, just because I want them to put their resources back into core Halo.
See, I'm the opposite, where I think a battle royale would have been really cool in Halo. I think of all the types of shooters to do a battle royale, that would probably be one of the ones I'd be the most interested in, just because I feel like that's a vibe that you don't really get inside of that space that Halo brings. And also, of course, Halo has all the different stuff with, all the different weapons that you would have been able to find around the map. Their
sandbox is definitely worth it. I would agree with you that their sandbox could contain a very good battle royale. I don't think it would be as competitive as the arena version of it, though. So when if you get a battle rifle and I get a sniper and I just take you out, I just don't think it's as balanced as games like Apex and Fortnite would be. So
that's fair.
That's probably where all their resources went, was trying to balance this fantasy game that they wanted to drive up, and it probably just never panned out. That's probably why the bigwigs were like, yeah, the kids don't really like BRs anymore, boss. So it's, I don't know.
Well, that, and also I feel like it's less the kids don't really like BRs, because obviously we just went over the top 10 and there's 3 BRs I think in there.
Right, but I just meant,
but I don't think there's a lot of
ones.
space for there's not a lot of space for new ones. At this point, you've been in Apex Legends for years. You've been in PUBG for years. You've been in Fortnite for, you're in those games. Another battle royale coming around isn't going to take you from those. It's kind of the same argument that Phil, I'm gonna kind of bring in a different thing, but Phil Spencer made the argument that they lost the worst generation to lose, which was like the Xbox One, PlayStation 4 generation, because people at that point got bought into their consoles because of digital purchases and stuff. You're not going to switch from a PlayStation console to an Xbox console right now, really, because you're already probably kind of bought into that ecosystem. And I think the same thing applies to these battle royales.
Right, because these new ones are basically just an upgraded version of the last one. So you probably keep your digital purchases through the generations now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And kind of the same thing with like Apex, where it's like, I've already spent, some people probably have spent thousands of dollars in that game. And so they're like, for better or for worse, this is my BR essentially.
Yeah.
And so I do think that's something that some people are waking up to, and why a lot of these BR projects are getting canceled is they're probably realizing, one, we're not going to convert that many people, and two, we're not going to have enough new BR players come in to support it. If the Last of Us Battle Royale thing that they were going to make came out, they weren't going to get enough players to support that. And Halo probably saw something similar. But I do really, really, really hope, well, I do think it's probably the smart idea to cancel it right now, because I feel like it's probably a good bet to just Halo Infinite is what it is. I don't think there's really a revival coming for it. I think it would take a significant amount of work to revive it, and it's probably better just to put that work into another Halo at this point. And so I think that's probably what they, or I'm hoping that's what they decided to do, is they said, instead of making this BR mode, let's take what we've learned from it. Let's make something new that builds upon BRs, maybe, you know, and is something new and fresh that we can bring into the next Halo. And that can kind of be a big selling point.
Yep.
Because I do feel like the BR genre came in really hot, and it hasn't evolved a ton since it came out.
Yeah, and when so it did evolve, it was with Apex, and Fortnite immediately implemented all of the evolutions. So,
yep. And so I just think that we're at the point where we kind of need the next big thing for shooters.
I'm saying it's going to be Battle Royale monster catching.
In Halo?
No, that's the next iteration. That's the next iteration. That's the next evolution in Battle Royales. You just add monster catching to everything now.
Check it out. I got my level 28 grunt that's going to go against your level 33 elite or something. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. Let's mix it up. Let's see what happens with it. You know, I'm not opposed.
I wasn't opposed to some of those other battle royales that were the magic ones. Spellbreak.
Yeah.
Very fun game, but it died as soon as it came out. It was so fun though. I absolutely loved it. I loved the combos. Like,
yeah, because once again, you're in an ecosystem. So all the Apex players were like, "Oh, there's a new battle royale. Let's go try it out." Oh, that was fun. I'm not going to stick with it because I've already spent $2,000 in Apex.
Well,
so I'm just going to go
even as much as fun, I'm not locked into a BR, and even then, I still wouldn't have probably stuck with it because it's not one of those games that I don't feel like you play I don't play those genres to like live on them. I play them to have fun in the moment. Like, oh, hey, you want to play a weekend of Spellbreak or Fortnite? Or you want to play? I mean, my friends and I, we do it all the time. You guys want to play a weekend of Apex, and then we'll never touch it for another 6 months. So Spellbreak was the same way, but I think Spellbreak still has a place, but in arena. Don't make it a BR. Make it an arena game. I mean, a third-person spell throwing game, like, give me that.
But I feel like you run into the same issue where, like, it's how many people can you actually get into your? Let me ask you this. You know, you're the first-person shooter guy. I know you don't really play BRs, but I consider you pretty in that space. Is there a way that they could convert you to another like arena style shooter? Is there a way that they could make you commit to another arena style shooter that isn't Halo essentially? I mean, I guess the question, better question is
Rainbow as well.
Did the finals convert you, or was the finals just another, we played it for a week or two and we were like, that was pretty cool. We'll maybe come back to it in 6 months. Like, how does an arena shooter convert you to being every weekend I'm going to be playing blankety blank arena shooter?
Either be Halo or be Rainbow. Those are my top two. But the finals, that's a good question. I can't fully answer it because my main answer doesn't have anything to do with the game. My main answer has to do with the culture. And two different types of culture. My friends, because like, if it were up to me, I would play Rainbow Six, and I'm not joking you, every single day. Every day. I love that game, but I don't like playing by myself. And I have a friend who also loves it, but he doesn't like playing with 2 people. He likes to play with 5, and I can't get 5 people. It's just not going to happen. It'll never happen. It'll never happen. I will never get 5 people to ever play that game again with me. And I like to play with my friends. I don't want to play with randoms. So it's just the nature of that. So one of it is there are two reasons is the culture. One being my friends, and the other side is that these games don't. I totally blanked on what I was going to say, but they don't like last. Like they. Most of the time, totally lost it. Doesn't matter. I don't remember exactly what you asked, and now I totally spaced it.
I mean, it's kind of the age-old game dev question, which is how do you actually maintain an audience? How do you come out? And this is the thing that I find really interesting, and kind of going back to Palworld, why I kind of asked, like, do you think this has legs?
Oh,
is because
I remember
that's
now.
the science. Okay, go for it.
The culture is that for me to keep playing them is for it to just be a game that exists and it's fun. Like, for example, the only people playing the finals still, for the most part, I would bet that over 50% of the people playing finals, so the majority, the hefty majority, probably beyond 60%, are sweaty, dripping sweat. And it's the nature of it. It's an arena shooter. You want to try, you want to win, but those are the types of things that I love competing and stuff. But you usually compete in those types of things because there's a rank, and you want to rank higher or be where you're at because you've plateaued. When we play the finals, I only ran into the sweatiest of sweaty people. And it is very frustrating because we have turned this culture of arena shooters, or, in battle royales, but arena shooters have turned into this culture of get on YouTube and look up the best way to play the game, period. And you've experienced this in a like a lighter way in terms of Destiny. You know people that only want to be meta runners, and the meta is not the most fun way to play. And I'm not saying that the arena shooter is the most fun way to play isn't to win. It is. That is the most fun way to play, but like, we all don't have to be Shroud. You know what I mean? You can just use your skill and your knowledge and learn the game, but I understand that that's kind of part of the process. You want to be better, so you look up a YouTube video, but literally day one, they'll be like, oh, what's up, guys? Here's your boy HP here, and we're going to be learning how to be the best at finals. You're going to do this, and this is the new strategy, and if you don't do this, you're going to lose every game, 100% guaranteed. So then there becomes this wave of a meta. And if you're not doing that, you lose because it's cheesy or it's just so good that you can't beat it. And so if you're not doing that because you want to try something kind of outside the box, because like you can do that in League, you could run anything random you wanted in gold, in platinum or lower. If you're good at it, you could run any character in any lane. But in some of these games, if you don't do XYZ and you break that meta, you lost the YouTube battle because I'm not good, and I just hate that type of stuff. So that it's the culture really that gets me to stop playing these kinds of games. And also I'm getting older. It's hard to maintain a competitive mindset.
That's fair.
I have it though. I still have that edge.
Okay. That was a great answer. I don't have anywhere to take it just because, like I said, it's the age-old game dev question where it's like, how do you get people to stick around, especially with like live service games and everything? So it's just interesting getting the perspective of that audience, of which I consider you to be.
Yeah, I like the dichotomy between dev and gamer. Like, you ask the question, how do you get people to stay? And then I can ask the question, what could devs do to get people to stay, and vice versa. Like, there's always this like balance of like what type of gamer is going to stay and what game devs can do to get them to stay. I like this conversation. We can always touch back on this every week, but
because the only thing, it brings up like one of the solutions they tried and then people realized it and then were mad. But I was like, that was a great solution. If people didn't know any better, it would be a great solution. Which was
can I guess? Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, so I was gonna say that, or what Gears of War did, which was so despicable. Gears of War did it way worse, and they still do bots. Fortnite does bots. So if you haven't played in like 6 months, or you didn't play this season, you play bots first. Good idea, but kind of shady business practice because you're just trying to get you in, make you feel good.
It's the game's still good. The game was still fun to you, right? Why does it matter if it was another player?
Because you're being eluded, and I don't like that. I don't like dishonesty because they don't tell you that they're not bots, but that's still lying to you, right? Like the assumption, you're under the assumption you're queuing for real people. So if you're under an assumption, they're doing something wrong. Gears of War, though, that's not that bad. It's annoying because you got people that are like, I won my first 10 games of Fortnite. It's like, yeah, against literally nobody, bro. Good job. Because I did that. I won my first game. I'm like, this game is easy. And then I realized they were bots.
Yeah.
But Gears of War did it worse, and it was way despicable. We don't have to stay on this topic, but this is like a 10-year-old thing. But Gears of War said their developers, this is a quote from them. I'm paraphrasing it, but basically their developers said people don't stay around if they don't at least get a kill. And so they'll quit their game. And so what they did is not put you against bots, but they tuned up your damage like 400% on your first like 5 games. Or your first game. So if you went into a game of if you went into a game of Gears of War trying to like, oh, I'm gonna just go in and beat these guys because I've been playing all day and I'm warmed up, bro, and then some guy insta-gives you across the map, that's why. That's why.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I mean, that is a solution. Very on paper, you're like, yeah, that makes sense, but in practice, you're like, that's awful.
It's so disgusting because you're like, you're just another player trying to, you know, play the game, and then you just get absolutely slaughtered because some guy gets a crazy advantage.
I don't know. I guess I've always been in the camp that I think bots are actually a great solution to a lot of this problem. I mean, granted, like, you know, you don't want your game to be completely bots, but I do think that like one of the big barriers is sweat. You know, if I go play the finals right now, I'm going to load up and I'm just going to get absolutely beat down. And I'm going to go, all right, it's gaming for me then, out. Versus if they put me in with bots, you know, maybe a mixture. So there's like a really good
but it
player
loses its allure after a while, right? Because then you know you're playing bots, and it's like you're playing a competitive game against a robot who's programmed to lose. You know what I mean? It's
not necessarily. I think, but see, I think that's the difference. Is I've known games that have done bots that are not programmed to lose. They are programmed to try to win. Now, yeah, if you're talking about the Fortnite ones where they're like literally running into a wall and you're like.
But
okay,
I guess that also depends on the player at that point, because I don't care if I beat a robot unless the robot has been perfected to win, which in that case I cannot win. Then that's we're not talking about anything there at that point. But I don't care that I'm better than I don't have to go back into the AI conversation, but I don't care that I'm better than a robot. I could not care less.
Interesting. See, I have a similar thing where I'm just like, I don't care if it's a robot or a person. To me, the game's fun shouldn't come from beating somebody. It should come from the gameplay loop of which I am doing.
The gameplay is fun if it just depends on the game type. Like in Destiny, we're beating the raid over and over again, which is a bunch of robots, but we're accomplishing something as a team together. Now, you could argue semantically that in the finals, for example, if you were facing or Fortnite, you're overcoming bots together as a team. That's the same concept in semantics, but the goal is to be the best at a battle royale where it's pitting players against players. Destiny's raid is not PvP. It matters the destination, not just the journey. Like the journey, sure, if you had fun, you had fun, but the destination is we beat people. That's the goal. And in Destiny raids, for example, it is not to beat people. That's why you go to PvP.
Interesting.
If you go into Gambit or well, Gambit's a mix. That's a bad example. If you go into Crucible and you're not facing real people, then you're being lied to, because that's literally the point. So it all matters the intention, I should say.
But see, at the end of the day, at least for me as a player, I wouldn't care. Unless it was like a ranked game. Like if I'm going into a ranked game and it's bots, then it's like, okay, yeah. To me, like that's the whole point.
That's why it matters the player then. Because to me, it matters that it's the player when it's a PvP game, because I want to know that I'm better than the other player, not than a robot. Even if I had fun, it's like, I don't care. Because I had fun in that Fortnite game, but I'm never going to play Fortnite again.
Bots are getting better to the point to where, like, you know, I've actually never brought up this example, but Exoprimal, you know, best game ever, game of the year, 2023.
I need to make a compilation of this.
And it's funny. I'm not even bringing this up as a meme, but actually it's pertinent to this conversation. Exoprimal uses quite a few bots. So the game is very Gambit-like, where it's a 5v5 where you're killing a bunch of hordes of dinosaurs and you can essentially invade other people's instances. But then also at the end of the match, there's a final mission where you all kind of get dumped into the same arena and you're trying to complete an objective before the other team does. Sometimes this is pushing a payload. Sometimes this is destroying certain bases. Sometimes it's a capture the flag kind of deal. Like there are a whole bunch of different game modes that you can do. But the game uses bots for your team in a lot of instances. You know, you'll load in with 5, but if somebody loads out, it doesn't just knock you out a person. It puts in a bot. And the bots are actually really good, to the point that like there's been times where a person's left and it's replaced with the bot, and I'm like, damn, this bot's kind of. What happened?
Hang on, did not mean to do that.
Uh-oh.
There we go. we're good. Yeah, no, I agree with you. But
so these bots are sorry. Let me finish this. So these bots are actually pretty sophisticated, and they actually work pretty well. And so I guess my whole thing is like, I've gotten killed by bots in Exoprimal, you know, on the opposite team, because like I said, they're generally pretty good to where like you don't really mind it. And so I feel like the same thing where if I'm getting bots that aren't, you know, absolutely brain dead, that aren't just like W key forward and shoot every once in a while, essentially, to the point to where some of these bots might be better than some players, does it really matter? If we, as a hypothetical, if we get to a point where bots are about as skilled as your maybe average, low average player, does it really matter at that point if it's not ranked? It depends on
where. That's why I think it's subjective, because it depends on where your fun comes from. I could do the same thing in Halo. The bots in Halo are pretty good. I would never go into a bot match. I would never play, unless it's Doom bots just for the sake of being fun in League of Legends. I will never go into a bot match. I don't even go into a bot match to practice. I'm just going to a normal draft because I want to play against a human. I don't.
Sure,
but that just but if that's your if that's where you're getting your fun, then that, because like it is fun to go into like even League and go against beginner bots for a little bit. But I would never. I can honestly say I would never do it in Halo. Not even to practice. Not even for a little bit. Not even in the slightest.
But what if in that casual match, you know, it's a casual match, not a ranked match. Like I said, ranked match, I definitely agree. It needs to be obviously human versus human competitors, because that's
100%. But that's how I see all competitive games, even in a casual version of it. Otherwise, I agree with you fully. Like if it's casual, yes, but it's still subjective because it depends on the person. Because I only play ranked games. I can't say 100% of the time because I'm going to be lying, but 90 to 99% of the time, I am playing a competitive game in the ranked version of it. Because if you, for example, the reason ranked is there, because like Sirens used to get scared of like she used to play some PvP games. She used to get so scared of ranked games because she's like, oh, that's where the people are trying. It's like, yeah, but they're trying and you're getting ranked. And so if you get ranked bronze or silver, you're playing other people who are bronze and silver. If you go into a casual game, you might get a diamond player. You cannot get a diamond player unless they're smurfing. You cannot get a diamond player in your ranked game, at least, you know, after you've placed and stuff like that. So it just depends on the way you kind of want to play it. Because I always tell her, she's like, well, that's where all the people are going to be super trying and sweaty in this. And I'm like, yeah, but they're also going to be your skill level. Because if you play casual, you're just going to get slaughtered by some challenger player who's just chilling and wants to just chill and play. Now, obviously, I've had challenger players who are smurfing in silver and stuff like that. That's nuance. Like you can't, that's not the game's fault or anything like that. But it just depends on who the kind of person. Like I typically only play ranked because I want to play people at my skill level, or I want to move up. I like both of those feelings, playing people at my skill level and learning and getting better. So it's not about, because if it was just about stomping it, give me beginner bots all day in League of Legends. I don't like League of Legends like that.
See, I guess for me, it's the, I guess I derive a lot of the fun just from the gameplay loop and not necessarily the outcome of those loops.
Yep, and I see that. I totally understand that.
It isn't. That is interesting. This might be a topic. Those will come back up.
We can bring it back up. Put a pin in that.
But yeah, we'll keep moving on because we're coming up on time. But a couple of quick ones, and then I'll end with the Xbox Dev Direct. So lead actor in Halo tweeted about how the face needs to be shown for a TV show for the audience to essentially vibe with that character. And
fully
I'm like,
disagree.
Do you literally know what one of the biggest shows is right now?
The Mandalorian. The
Mandalorian that has a masked main character.
And
literally,
not only could I disagree with that more, studies and shows have proven that's not true. One of them being the most popular one, Mandalorian, but the other one being literally the game that you're making the show off of, Halo. Everyone likes the Master Chief, and everyone knows that character is actually a compelling emotional wreck. Like, we like him. We like his emotions. He's not just some stoic character with no emotion. He has a mask on, and that means he has, like, it doesn't mean he doesn't have feelings. It's insane to say that.
Yeah, and I also just find it insane where it's like you just have to write the show to then make it so that the unmasked moments are special essentially. You can still, just like in Mandalorian, like the unmasked moments, you're like, oh, we're getting like a moment where he takes off the helmet and they see him and all that kind of stuff. You can do that the same thing in Halo, where it's like if you think that you really need those emotional moments, you can still do that. But yeah, throughout the rest of the show, just have the dude wearing the helmet. Like everyone will still vibe with that character if the writing is good enough. Granted, I haven't seen the Halo show, so I don't know if the writing is good enough, but
It did not work well. I didn't watch all of it. I watched pieces of it. I didn't like it. I like the Master Chief, who he is. I'm not saying that Pablo, I think his name is Pablo. I'm not saying that he did a poor job, but I just don't think that the writers, and I don't think it all married the franchise well. And and one of the big, and I can say this a little bit. I heard some people talking. They don't want it to be based off of the games. Like they don't want, and I'm like, why? It was good and best selling for a reason. Give us the story on the big screen. We don't care if you want to tell a new story. Now, sometimes the new story can be good. It wasn't. Move on.
That's fair. I could go both ways on that, where I get sometimes it's better to adapt, in different medias. Sometimes stories won't work as well. So if they wanted to adapt it, I think that's fine. But I think that they missed a couple of the core tenets of what made that series what it is. So
the game is a first-person shooter. You could not be more engrossed in the character, enveloped in the character. So it is the most realistic a sci-fi game could be. It's not like it's now, even StarCraft could be compelling because you just get down in there to the character and make a character driven out of that. But it would have to be somewhat different, because it's not like the gameplay is in StarCraft. Oh, you need more Vespene gas. Must construct additional pylons. That would be a boring TV show. But in Halo, you are the Master Chief. You are walking through these hallways of exploding spaceships. And then during that, people are saying, Chief, help me over here. And you go help him out or whatever. So yes, copy the source material. Adapt it. It was good. It is good. It has cutscenes. It's not just a video game. It is a piece of media, and it is good.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I never played past Halo 4, but I agree.
You got enough. You got way more than enough.
That's kind of what I've been told throughout the year. So I'm like, all right, I'll just keep it that way. All right. Next, I'm going to take us to Ubisoft execs. Say, get used to not owning games. This is kind of this came from an interview with the Ubisoft exec where they were talking about some of the changes they're making to the Ubisoft Plus platform, which is their whole kind of Game Pass equivalent, where get the newest games from Ubisoft for like 17 or 18 bucks a month. I'm actually currently subscribed to Ubisoft Plus, so I know a little bit about that if you have questions about it. But essentially his whole thing was that he thinks that the industry is moving in a direction where ownership of games is not going to really be a thing anymore, or at least not as widespread.
Or as we know it.
Yeah, or as we know it. How right now, even though I think right now, we don't really own a lot of our games. Tomorrow Palworld could get taken from us, and there's very little that we could do about it. And so unless you have the physical media, there's not a ton you can do. And even physical media can sometimes be a little weird nowadays too, since so much of the games can be held online. But I did think it was an interesting comment, and I saw a lot of people dragging him and being like, this is why physical media is important and everything like that. But I actually want to take this another direction, and of course I want your input on it. But my direction is, are a lot of games worth owning nowadays? And this actually, I feel like, leads directly into Ubisoft Plus. I got Ubisoft Plus November of last year. Nope, October. That's a lie. It was October of last year. And that's because I thought about it. I was like, I do want to play that new Assassin's Creed game, Assassin's Creed Mirage. I also want to play Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, which comes out in December. And I also want to play Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, right? And so I did the math, and I was like, I could just get Ubisoft Plus for 4 to 5 months, and I will essentially have paid the equivalent of one of those games. And at no point, and I've played all of those games except for Prince of Persia. I still need to get to that. Palworld got in the way, of course. And I've gotten to the point where I was thinking about it, and I'm like, do I care if I owned Assassin's Creed Mirage? The answer is no. Do I care if I own Prince of Persia? The answer will likely be no. It'll probably be really good, but I don't really care if I owned it or not. Do I care if I owned Avatar Frontiers of Pandora? No. And so this kind of got me thinking where I almost agreeing with them in a way where it's like gamers need to get used to it. And I don't necessarily see it as necessarily a bad thing because I just don't know the way that games are right now. Does it matter if you own Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3? Because you're just going to get the new thing next year and then forget about that other game.
That's an interesting take on it. Are you is it my turn? Are you asking for my input?
Yeah, yes, please.
Because I was fully enveloped in your the commentary for this because I didn't read too much about it. I didn't know what he was saying, but now that you're saying it the way that, like, I would agree with that. I mean, you got the Game Pass, you got the Ubisoft Pass, all that stuff. I'm with that. I don't think you have to own anything, and I'm the type of person, you know me, other than the things you see behind me, I own nothing. I don't like having stuff. If anything, I keep telling Sirens, we need to get rid of this stuff. I don't like stuff. I am probably the worst at being a human because humans innately want to hoard and collect and, ooh, shiny, that's mine. Keep it. I am not like that. Now, I do know a bunch of people who are like that. I imagine this entire wall behind me just being filled with games. Perfect Spade, shout out to my homie. He has thousands, tens of thousands of games in boxes and everything. He likes that. If that brings him joy, then he should be able to own these games. But I don't think that what you're saying is what is inherently wrong. I think that we should be able to own a physical copy if we want to. But I don't think if they don't. But if they want to keep putting these on these just services, then yeah. My only worry about this concept is quality, because it's like, okay, well, they're not getting it anyway. Let's just kind of let's do some behind the scenes magic to make it not so good. Not to make it not so good, but you know what I mean? I feel like quality might lose because they're like, well, we don't have to. I guess it depends on who and how they're working on it, but they don't have to, push out XYZ, so they can scrape funds here because they don't have to push out a physical copy. They can scrape funds here because they don't have to do digital compression to a certain degree, maybe, or whatever. Like, there might be some corners they can cut, so eventually when people start cutting corners, they start cutting corners everywhere. And so that's sure. It's just the nature of it. So I'm only worried about that. Do I think that it might actually happen? Probably not, but it could, and that's my only worry. If that is not the case, that we don't suffer from quality. I mean, if Prince of Persia is anything to say that we're going to suffer from quality, Prince of Persia is fantastic. So maybe, and you said Avatar is fantastic. So, and Assassin's Creed it does Assassin's Creed things. So I'm sure that it sure does. I'm sure that it's an Assassin's Creed game. I am a hater. I don't like those games. I want to because they're so popular and so cool, blah, blah, blah. I think they're very fucking boring if I'm being honest, but whatever. But yeah, as long as the quality doesn't suffer, I don't think we have an issue here.
Okay. So we're kind of in the same boat. I will say, to double down on a point that you said, I do still believe that there needs to be video game preservation. In 30 years, when somebody decides to do what I'm trying to do, which is play all the Final Fantasy games, I would want them to be able to get access to Mirage so that they can play through all of the Assassin's Creed games, Mirage included.
There you go. That's my question then. Do these companies revoke access to said games that we might still enjoy later? Because what if you make a fantastic game, right? Let's say there's 10 Assassin's Creeds. I don't know. There's like 30. I don't know. But what if number 7, Final Fantasy, for example, what if we lived in a world where all the Final Fantasies were on this service as they were coming out, and 7 is notably the best one. That's what everybody says, right? 7 is so good, everyone should play it. Well, what happens in 3 years beyond 7 when 10 is out and 11 is out and 12 is out and 13 is out all the way to 20? Can we go back and play 7? If yes, I'm fine with this. But if we can never go back after a certain time frame,
that is an issue. Yes.
That is an issue because someone created this work of art. Why can we not historically preserve this to a certain degree, to where we can continue to play this without an emulator or without a ROM.
Yeah, and this is where I think that, because we've seen with a lot of like movies and stuff, especially with Warner Brothers Discovery, they just straight up are like, we're just not going to come out with this movie because we can write it off and get a tax break instead, which is very bad. That's something I do not want to see happen in video games. Video game preservation is extremely, extremely important. And so I think there needs to be something baked in with that to where we are going to keep this game around. We are not going to wipe this thing from the surface, from everything. And this is something the Ubisoft exec actually talks about, where he talks about like, oh yeah, because basically what they did with Ubisoft Plus, they split it up now to where you can do classic Ubisoft titles, or you can do Ubisoft Plus, which is like all the, like anything new coming out, you get day and date, versus the classic stuff is like their back catalog of things. And he even mentions in the back catalog, he's like, we have no plans to remove anything from the back catalog. We plan to use that as a way of preserving what we have and everything like that. And so as long as Ubisoft stays with that tune, I think that's fantastic. Where it's like, yeah, you can come anytime, any day, and you can play Assassin's Creed 4. You can play Rayman Origins. You can play whatever these old games are, and they're not going to be going anywhere. And so I think that is extremely important. And I just hope that game developers are more publishers than actually developers. I feel like publishers need to be aware of the fact that people want these things to stick around. Even if I don't care about owning it, I want it to stick around so that the next person down the line can go back.
Just be available, because I mean, they're not getting rid of the Mona Lisa because somebody else painted something new. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Dizzy Indigo actually brings up a fantastic thing, and I agree with this fully. And if we could get, if somehow this could become law, it'd be fantastic. Which is, if you are going to write off a movie or a game as a tax write-off, it should be required to be released to the public because we then paid for it. Essentially saying that if you are going to not release a thing, you want to pay all the marketing, you want to write it off. Essentially, the government is essentially going to allow you to write it off and pay you for it. Then it becomes public access. Yeah, it becomes public access. And I think that would actually be fantastic. That'd be an amazing way to handle it, where it's like, we don't think we're going to get a return investment on this. Let us just write everything off so we get our investment back, and then the product can just be in public domain. That specific product, maybe not the characters and the IP and everything like that, but that specific
But what
product,
they have, even if it's like a half-finished movie with no edits or whatever, whatever you got, just give it to us. Like, we'll take it.
And I think that is a fantastic way to do it, because another thing can happen where like this actually kind of happened in video games, funnily enough, with Paragon. Paragon was a MOBA game that Epic Games made, and then Fortnite took off and they're like, guys, we don't have time for Paragon anymore. And so they killed Paragon, but they released everything they had made for Paragon, all the assets, all the stuff, everything. And other developers were like, cool, we'll make Paragon. And they've gone off and made Paragon.
But it's
you can go play Paragon.
But it's not called Paragon.
It's still called, well, there's two versions of Paragon right now. One of them is still called Paragon. It's like Paragon Overdrive, but then the other one's called Predecessor. And Predecessor, to my understanding, is the better of the two theoretically. But yeah, I think that's fantastic. Let people take those assets. If you didn't finish a game, let somebody else take the reins, finish making it up. You still got paid for all your time and assets and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's a great way to handle it.
Absolutely. Fully agree with that.
Will probably never happen because of IP laws and all that stuff. Yep. But that stuff all needs to change anyways.
Yep.
All right. Final news topic. The Xbox developer _direct happened this last couple days. I think it was on Thursday. And I watched it. I don't know if you watched it. Did you get a chance to watch it?
I didn't see anything on it, so this is all you, my friend.
All right.
You can close us out here with all this talk.
All right. They basically talked about 5 new games. And the thing that I really loved about this developer _direct, and I hope they kind of keep up this cadence with Xbox, is they're all coming out this year. This is essentially their beginning of the year. Here's what you can expect from Xbox this year. And they listed off all the titles. And so you've got Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, or Senua's Saga. Sacrifice was the first one. You've got the new Mana game, Visions of Mana, which is like a partnership game, not necessarily one of their games, but they brought it in anyways. You've got the new Indiana Jones game. You've got Avowed from Obsidian, creators of Fallout New Vegas and the like. And you've finally got brain fart. What is it? Is it Ara? It's a new like 4-time civilization style game, strategy game, basically. Histories Untold. I think it's called Ara Histories Untold or something along those lines. And they actually all looked great. I thought this was a fantastic showcase that really kind of let the developers take the reins on the messaging for their games and really kind of present them in the full light, not the whole marketed, pretty it up, put makeup on it, but really kind of just talk about their games. Like there's a funny part in the Avowed section with Obsidian. They're going over like they're showing, oh, this is what conversations look like in the game, like dialogue and all that. And you get to make choices as in a typical Obsidian RPG. And one of the dialogue lines is like, oh, did he call me a big baby? And I kind of got a chuckle out of that because I'm like, that would never clear marketing. Marketing would never approve you to say, did he call me a big baby in your marketing trailer, right? But Obsidian was like, we want to show you what the game actually is. We want to show you, the experience that we're creating. And I thought that was a really cool look at it. I'm not going to go over all the titles. I just wanted to bring up 2 and then kind of get your thoughts on if you're interested in them at all. But Vowed by Obsidian Entertainment, I've seen a lot of mixed kind of thoughts on this game. I think it actually looks really cool. It's very weird. Did you happen to play their other game, Outer Worlds?
Actually, no, but there is I want to give credit where credit is due, so give me 1 second. I did not play it. I'll tell you.
Okay, I'll keep talking while you pull that up. But Avowed essentially kind of looks like a fantasy version of Outer Worlds, where Outer Worlds was also kind of this weird, just a weird sci-fi game that had some, kind of odd writing, and it was just kind of this quirky game. And this kind of seems like the same thing. It looks very colorful. It looks very cool. Looks like, kind of grounded in this weird realism, but also very fantasy. And I think it looks great. Like I said, internet opinions kind of been scattered on it, but I think that it looks great, and I'm very excited for it. I'm a huge Obsidian fan. I think their games are fantastic. Did you get that pulled up?
Yeah, so there's I've never ever played the game. I've never even seen it played, but I heard this song called The Fine Print. It's the Outer Worlds song called The Fine Print by the Stupendium. I don't know if they're actually related to the actual devs or anything like that, but I think it's just some guy who does these music videos for these games. And I have never, Dizzy apparently had heard of it. I had never seen something that, you know what? I'm going to be honest. This might be what tipped me over the edge to quit my job. This song.
Interesting. That's kind of cool.
If you haven't heard it, go listen to it. It's 4 minutes, 59 seconds. There might be some ads in there somewhere, so it's probably only like 4 minutes, but it is so good. The lyrics are so deep, and I had a job at a warehouse for 12 years, and I wouldn't say that this was the reason I quit, but this was like a tipping point where I was like, I am being a robot. I am done with this. I want to try and see what other horizons there are. Now, I might end up going back to a dead-end job like that, sure, but I had to.
You got too much good stuff going on. You got too much going.
I appreciate it, but
too much talent.
this is where this. I would definitely say that this was a tipping point. This song is if you feel like you're stuck at your job, listen to this song, or don't, because it might hurt you. But it's a good song. I don't even know what Outer Worlds is about, but this is the only connection that I have, so I just wanted to word associate.
I mean, it kind of is about like, yeah, that whole corporate overlord, like basically space exploration happens, but it's all corporate, and everyone's kind of just lock and keyed into this, corporate conglomerate battles and stuff like that. So I mean, Obsidian makes great games. And so I think Avowed is going to be fantastic. And I think it'll probably, they even talk about how they want their games to have messages. And so if they continue that trend with this, I mean, I don't see any reason why Avowed won't be fantastic. Hellblade looks fantastic. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's Hellblade. We've seen it a billion times at Game Awards. I'm just happy that it finally got a release date for May. They did confirm it is going to be a shorter experience, which I actually am very happy about. They legitimately say it's a shorter narrative experience. It's going to be about the same length as the original game. And which makes me happy because that tells me that they decided they weren't going to go the AAA route where it's like, oh, we got bought by Xbox, we're AAA. Now we got to like quadruple the size of the game. I'm glad that they know that they need to make a very honed in experience. So I'm stoked for that. I'm very, very excited.
Good. That's good. Good on them for doing that then, because that can be a little bit of, I wouldn't say corruption, but you know what I mean? Like they get kind of taken over and get a little overzealous.
Yes. And that's one thing that I want, I'm happy Xbox supported them in that too, because a lot of other studios may have came in or publishers would have come in and said, we kind of need this to be like a $70 title. We need this to be like AAA, blah, blah, blah. And so good on Xbox too for letting them do their thing, saying, hey, this is what we believe. It should be a $50 title. It's going to be a shorter narrative experience. We're going to do this, that, and the other. Like, good on them. More publishers and developers need to do this. Not every game needs to be $70. Know what you have. Charge what it's worth and focus in on what you're trying to sell. Don't try to add in. Don't be like, oh, like what's big right now? Crafting, survival, pals, throw it all into Hellblade.
So good.
And then the last one I really want to talk about, Visions of Mana looks good. Cool that it's coming back. Our Histories Untold looks good. Not much to talk about on a 4X game. But Indiana Jones by Machine Games, the guys who have done the most recent like Wolfenstein games, looking pretty good. I mean, I think that Indiana Jones has a lot of problems as far as like a concept, just because I think that the obsession with kind of keeping Harrison Ford within the role and kind of keeping that continuous, I feel
weird.
like
that's weird. Weird.
It's weird. Indiana Jones needs to be a Doctor Who. The next Doctor comes in. The next Indiana Jones comes in. The next adventurer comes in.
Can be the character. Can he not just be a character? Lara Croft is that.
Yeah, Lara Croft would be a similar one. Where I just feel like
Lara Croft is basically the woman in Indiana Jones, and Indiana Jones is basically the male Lara Croft. I don't want to give one credit over the other, but it's like,
I mean, Indy was first, so you can give
first. I just didn't want to sound, I just didn't want to seem weird with it, but it's like, what's the difference? Just make it a character.
Yeah, and that is one thing with this. I'm like, I believe in their vision, but they did go with they got the Harrison Ford likeness. It is canon to the Indiana Jones movies and everything like that. And so like that is one thing I'm a little like, I kind of wish you guys would have just been like, hey, this is our indie. This is our take on indie. This is what our indie looks like. This is the story that our indie is going to have and everything like that. I just feel like us keeping it contained to this Harrison Ford thing is just weird for a character trope. Like Indiana Jones is a character trope. Just have it be the character trope, and cycle in different people to kind of do their new take on that character trope. But that being said, I think it looks actually awesome. I think it looks very cool. You're obviously beating up Nazis, which is always a good time. It's got the vibe, the globe trotting, the whip and everything. I'm very excited for it. It is sticking first person, which is interesting. I thought they were going to go third person.
Very interesting.
They did say that like when you're traversing and stuff, it pulls the camera out and makes it that third person. So kind of some of the more of the exploration will have some third person aspects, but combat and everything is going to be first person, which it's Machine Games. If you haven't played the new Wolfensteins, they're fantastic. They're phenomenal first person games.
I've heard nothing but good things about them, but I've never even seen gameplays, and I definitely should, having a game podcast.
Yeah.
I'll check them out.
But yeah, I would definitely check them out. I think they go on sale for like literally $2 to $5 a lot of the time. And they're not terribly long, but yeah, so them doing first person stuff, I think that makes sense. Let's not make, once again, talking about let's let the studios make what they're good at. Let the studio do what they're going to do. Don't come in and say, oh, nope, it's this, so we got to blow it up and it's got to have this, that, and the other. It's got to be third person. And, I think that it's good that they said, hey, Machine Games, what are you good at? First person narrative games? Combat?
Here's
okay,
Indiana
cool.
Jones.
Do that. Here's Indiana Jones. Go do that.
Right.
Oh, what are you also good at? Killing Nazis? All right, cool. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, beat up Nazis. And so I am very excited for that. More excited than I thought I would have initially been. I am a little sad that we're not getting a new Wolfenstein game anytime soon, because the last one did kind of end on a cliffhanger, and I'm like, I'd kind of like that story to get resolved, possibly, but c'est la vie, you know. And that was the Xbox Developer Direct. Once again, I hope they continue to do these every year. Just slot them in January. Tell me what you got going on during the year. Let the developers tell me what you got going on during the year.
Yeah, I do like that. I do like that. I might go back and check them all out. So
it's very cool. Like I said, it removes a lot of the, you know, it still has the marketing polish, but it removes a lot of the marketing beats, and instead just lets the developers actually talk about their products. And I think that's fantastic.
Fair.
And that's all the news we got. HP, you got anything else for us?
Nope. Time for us all to go play Palworld.
Yeah, time to go big.
You guys need to be listening to this podcast while playing Palworld.
Yes. Everyone go play Palworld. It is fantastic. You are going to have a great time. You can catch me on my YouTube channel as Fjord. I'll be having more videos come out soon, as well as my Twitch channel, where you can catch me playing through all my video games. Series, Final Fantasy and Yakuza going on right now. It's a good time. Oh, yeah. HP, where can people find you?
Find me at Heretic Plays on Twitch. It's obviously Heretic_Plays. Type in Heretic Plays anywhere else and you will find me. I also want to shout out my wife, Sirens. She just started uploading her videos yesterday. If you would like art and just a chill vibe and just a cute, quirky vibe, she will accompany you on your artistic and drawing journeys. So come draw with her at Sirens Sketches on YouTube. It is not the one with a period. It's the one with a cute little girl. So it's just Sirens Space Sketches. And that's it. That's all the gaming news we got.
And I'll just double down and say Sirens is a phenomenal human being. And you guys should all definitely go check her out. She will brighten your life by just being in it, even if in video form. So
here you go. Thank you.
Alrighty. And that has been your damage check for the week. We will see y'all next time. Keep being amazing, everybody.
See you guys. Love you.